What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 81. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez,
Why, hello, folks.
Chris Seeley,
Hey, what's up, everyone?
and Brett Murdoch.
You all haven't lived until you've eaten a pesto sauce pizza.
Oh,
Guys,
what the fuck is that?
You know what pesto sauce is, right?
No.
You don't know what pesto sauce is? It's ground basil and butter and... it's the tits, my friend. The tits.
Well, I mean, usually pesto sauce is it's usually spaghetti sauce. They usually pass that off as pesto sauce.
Oh God, no. A
Pesto
pesto sauce is
Yeah, Brett can't eat regular spaghetti sauce.
no. A pesto sauce is a basil-based sauce with some butter and seasonings and I believe some pine nut in it. Oh, it's really good. It's kind of a green sauce. You can get a creamy version. And the pizza place down the street from my house does a really good thin crust with pesto sauce, feta cheese, and bacon on top, and it is awesome. I'm feasting on one right now.
Nice. That was pretty great.
Somebody out there, try that combination from your local pizza chain, and then you can email me or just write into the show in the comments to thank me, just however's convenient for you.
All right. No bullshit before the show, so let's just get into it. Oh, by the way, we don't know where the hell Brian is. He may show up, he may not. Whatever. All right. Final stage boss, as always. Naughty Dog says Uncharted 4's ending will be controversial and sad, which says to me that Drake will die. What do you think? I think he will either die or be incapacitated in a way that he can't be brought back. That's my thoughts. I mean, Neil Druckmann says, like, yeah, the way we wrote this, Nathan Drake can't come back. Like, they could be another Uncharted game, no Nathan Drake. So, do you think he'll die?
I didn't play number 3, just because I happen to miss it. I have interest, but what happened to Sully in 3?
He's still alive, if that's what you're wondering.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
He's still a guy. He's always been a good guy.
Well, I'm wondering, what if Nathan and Sully go at odds, and Nathan has to kill Sully?
Oh, shit.
That would qualify the same, right?
Yeah, for controversial ending, yes, it would. That's for sure. You know? Chris, what do you say, man? Oh, go ahead. Finish your point. Yeah.
Oh, my only point is that I know the low-hanging fruit is, oh my God, they're going to kill Nathan Drake, but, like, there's all kinds of other things that could happen. That was just kind of an example.
Yeah. I'm just going with I think people are going with that because Neil Druckmann said, like, Nathan Drake can't come back after this. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to die, though.
Right, but it's like, what else could happen? It's like, if you go with Brett's theory and he, like, goes to prison for the rest of his life, it's like, does that count?
Sully was his mentor and his partner. He could just, like, be like, dude, I've lost everything, and I've had to kill my mentor, partner, and pretty much pseudo-father. I'm done. I'm hanging it up, and I'm not doing this anymore.
Technically speaking, Nathan Drake going to jail would be controversial, too.
Or what if he got paralyzed?
It could, it could be. That's a Seinfeld ending, by the way. Ended up in jail for the, finale and shit.
You know what? The thing, I wish that they wouldn't have to, go to those sorts of measures to end something. They can't just say the case is closed and that's it. Like, you have to kill these. Like, as we all know, even with friggin' like characters like Kratos, death is not the end. So if they even wanted to if Sony said, "Hey, let's bring back Drake," they could do that shit. In fact, they could make a prequel game.
They can. That's true.
So it's not the end of the character.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to put a narrative end to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean, like, that could just mean he doesn't want to, or, like, it's not going to be controversial in the sense that, like, oh, Nathan Drake just got so rich he never has to hunt treasure anymore. Like, he's going to have to, like, lose the ability to, or lose the drive to. So... Yeah.
I hear Chewbacca.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry. So all of a sudden, apparently, everybody decided to fucking text me before I could shut my phone on silent. Sorry about that.
I blame that on Rachel. She just texted all of us a really crazy picture.
Okay.
Red, you're looking at the same shit I am. Holy crap.
She didn't send it to me. What's up with that? Come on, Rachel.
You like to be in the corner by yourself, remember?
What's that?
You like to be in the corner by yourself, remember?
Hey, no, listen. That you can send me some shit.
Yeah. I was just joshing you. By the way, I just started a throwdown text group. I should have done that like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, man, you were the only one that responded.
Mhm.
I'm the only one that responded?
Yeah, when I was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna be doing a show tonight," you were like the only one like, "Yep."
Yeah, well, I do answer my fucking texts. I also answer my phone, too.
Yes. Yeah, I don't do that sometimes.
Don't you judge me.
I also answer my phone. What the fuck? Why don't you have a goddamn... Why do you have a phone anyway? Just get a beeper if you're not going to answer your goddamn phone. Jeez.
Anyway, Chris, controversy. Any others?
With Uncharted?
Yeah, with the ending, yeah.
I think it's got to be that he dies. I think this is just this adventure is just too extreme for him. There's a thing like his brother's in there now, and maybe his brother's gonna be the new protagonist. That's what I was thinking when they first said it. I was like, oh, hey, his brother's in there, and they were estranged, and he's in. I'm like, maybe they get into some shit, and Nathan sacrifices himself for him. Like they're reunited for a little bit and then they're torn apart because he dies. I think he's gonna die.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to end it. I don't think you could be like, oh, he's going to prison forever or what. I don't like that you could come back from.
Yeah, exactly.
We're busting him out for Uncharted 5.
Uncharted 5, the search for Nathan Drake.
It's like Spock.
Yes. All right, Mandy, you don't want to answer this?
I'll answer it. Fucking number one, if they do kill him, I'm done.
Oh shit!
Because it is so stupid. Come on, guys, really? Oh, the best thing we can think of. We're just gonna kill him. Stupid. I want to see a creative way to get out of this. If Nathan Drake is gonna get out of it, it's got to be something better than he's dead.
He's
He's dead.
Yeah, fucking Sully stabs him in the back. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so stupid. But yeah, I would say, as far as controversial, that's probably the controversial and the stupidest way to end off Drake. He doesn't need to fucking die. But I do agree that a more creative way would be, like Rhett would say, like somehow is some way, something maybe personal or something else causes him to totally give it up.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to see him come back as a mentor in a later game, maybe. Like, what if he lost his right hand and he comes back as like a chain smoking badass with a hook for a hand later on? I'd be like, oh yeah, I was once an adventurer like you.
We may find out that that the Drake that we were playing in this specific game is actually not Drake. It's you.
Yes.
What? My mind.
Revelations.
Oh man! All right, let's move on here. Second question. Unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe, DC owns all their properties, and they can't get their movies right. Can you imagine if Marvel owned all their properties? Basically, could you imagine if Marvel Cinematic Universe had the X-Men?
Oh.
Yes,
I mean,
that says it right there.
Listen, they would just have had Wolverine fight the Hulk already, and everybody would have just shit their pants.
Yeah,
that's how good it would have been.
Yeah.
You would have been like, I need new underwear every time I watch this fight.
It would have been a sad, one-sided brawl. I don't know, maybe this is just me as a Marvel fanboy, but it felt right around 95, 96 or so. Like, Marvel was just handing it to DC just hand over fist, man. Like, it was almost ridiculously sad how popular the X-Men and everything had become, and DC was subsisting, as far as I knew from my group of friends at that point, just pretty much on Batman. Everybody had forgotten about Superman. Nobody really gave a fuck at that point.
Well, that was when DC was trying to come back there, because Marvel was like, oh fuck.
The one thing about Batman is he's the most Marvel character that DC has.
That's a fact.
And that's the reason why he was working out so well. You toss a couple of former Marvel guys on a Batman book. That might as well have been a Marvel book. What are we talking about now? Like Drake Capullo, a friggin' Marvel '90s guy, is drawing Batman right now.
True. So was it that Marvel was just dominating the comic scene right around then? It wasn't just my interpretation as like a 13-year-old kid.
No, I mean they were.
Okay, so I think we'd see that in the movie equivalent, right? Like if Marvel owned all that, it'd be pretty much the same thing where Marvel would just be beating DC down and DC would be barely deflecting blows. It's like Batman, Wonder Woman.
But you also got to remember in 1996 that was when things started to fall apart. And
that's because Marvel spread themselves too thin, started to water down their own IPs.
Well, the thing is, the biggest part of it, that the problem that what caused all of it is really just the fact that all the big artists decided to go and leave the company. They were at their biggest point, and in the '96 era, that's like Joe Madureira and all those guys.
Yeah, didn't that have something to do with Image being formed?
Yes, that is totally what caused all of that to come apart. It's because of Image.
Because Marvel got all big in the britches, like we constantly warn the video game companies not to get all big in the britches, make some bad decisions.
Yeah, there's also the fact that Marvel didn't want to let the creators kind of control their books. I mean, granted, they did let a lot of the creators control the books, but they were a lot of these guys were trying to push it a little bit. So then they got unhappy and they said, "Oh, fuck this, we're going to make our own thing." Which it's kind of interesting because most of those guys don't make comic books anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so I've had time to think about this, and my answer to this question would be like the last 30 seconds of a losing Dark Souls boss battle.
It's the thing about the whole situation. If Marvel did own their properties, they would be doing top notch stuff because they are the one difference between Marvel and DC is also DC officially doesn't control all of their properties either.
Yeah, they don't.
No, Warner Brothers.
It's Warner Brothers. So
Yeah,
that's why Warner Brothers is just using it as like, this thing's already done really well. We don't need to do any development. We got all of it written first. We just hire a writer, and that's it. We'll toss it out there. That's the way they're treating it. As far as Marvel is trying to be respectful to the characters. And what's interesting, though, I noticed that even Fox is starting to see this. The more respectful that you are to the original content, which they, with the, even though I don't like the original X-Men film, it was as close as we got to having a spot-on X-Men film, that you could get at the time. When they realized that letting the creators of these things be respectful to the characters and do the things that they want to do, then the people see it and they're like, wow, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that DC kind of has to learn, or Warner Brothers has to learn. They have to let a certain amount of the people from the comic book department actually interact and make these things. That's why the DC animation things work so well, because the guys that are doing this are trying to be as respectful as they can to the original properties.
Fox needs to learn this too, and their Fantastic Four shenanigans.
Well, the Fantastic Four. That was them again. That was them trying to control everything. That X-Men 3 is another situation where they were trying to control everything. And also the previous Fantastic Four films, rather than let a person who's really passionate about the actual property and let them actually try to make something as close as possible, they kind of make these kind of what I call Cliff Note movies, where they throw every single thing that appeared in the comics that everybody remembers at once.
Yep, they're like, "Hey guys, remember this?"
I always called
Daredevil. You think about it.
Oh God.
Yeah, Daredevil, that's what Daredevil was.
Remember this. That's tell me a good story.
I called that the moment. I called that is the moment from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. If any of you have seen that film, there's that one point where the kid pulls up the Viewmaster and puts it on Max's head, and they go, "Remember this?" And they're like, "Never, Neverland. Remember this, Captain Walker." That's it. That's what you're getting with a lot of those films.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of just snapshots.
I can't think of a word to think of it for that, but that's what that is.
It's just really bad, ham-fisted fan service.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like again, as a creator, most of those guys, filmmakers, writers, they're all going to want to put their own stamp onto it. They'll change things around, stuff like that. Obviously, these sorts of things happen. But the thing is that when you start going so far away from the content and just become it's like just trying to remind people about certain things, then it's insulting.
I agree. Totally.
Yeah, I just want to say that amidst a slew of failures, I find it absolutely hilarious that Fox accidentally made a good superhero movie. Like, despite everything to their best efforts against being able to do this, like, fuck, can we just, I know we greenlit it, but can we redlight it? Okay, let's strip $12 million from the budget. That didn't kill it. Okay, let's strip more money from the budget. Okay, that didn't kill it. We're going to tank it. What, they leaked the footage? Okay, shit. Don't release any characters that we like or have any attachment to. It is still flying. How is this happening? All right, you know what? Just let it flop in the theaters. It made how much money?
I think that also the other thing that's key with the Deadpool film is that it cost as much as it did. Big movie studios don't give a shit when the budget is low. They're like, whatever, do whatever the hell you want.
Yes.
At that point, when it starts becoming when it starts going to a point where they're spending some serious fucking money on it, that's when the producers come in and say, no, put the Hall of Armor.
Freaking heavy, Reg.
I'm gonna say this. I mean, at that point, Aviara was in charge of all the crappy films, the third crappy films that you remember out there. Spider-Man 3, X-Men 3, even the fucking Wolverine.
Oh, Origins Wolverine,
X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's another one from him too. The two Fantastic Four films, the previous Fantastic Four films. I'm doing that. Isn't that a derogatory?
What?
That doing that in England, right? The reverse peace sign.
I don't know. To be fair, though, he did have a hand in the first Iron Man and the Spider-Man movies too.
But what were the budgets on those films?
Yeah,
they were high.
small, yeah.
They were high, but they weren't that high.
Yeah,
Spider-Man 3 was the most expensive of the Spider-Man films. So was X-Men.
That's why you get, hey, throw Venom in there.
That's when you get situations like, hey, the fans love, hey, throw Venom in there. No, don't throw fucking Venom in there.
Yeah, even Sam Raimi was like, I don't like Venom as a character. He said that many times.
The thing is, the perfect way to end that movie off would have been, he goes into Bell Tower after he does all these horrible things as Black Spider-Man, not dancing.
Yes.
And then he goes to the bell tower, and Eddie's there, and that same shit happens. Like, there are so many things in that film that if you chopped out the Venom shit and then you let it do the certain things that it did right, it would have been a good film. Like that fight between Goblin and Peter Parker as himself, that was an awesome fight. Like, there's good shit in there. Like the dynamic of Sandman, like I would have liked to have explored Sandman a little bit. Like I even thought he was cool.
Yeah, but then the rest of the movie just blew.
Yeah, and then the rest of that's like because the studio said they wanted to put Venom in there. They cut out the whole arc of Harry Osborn, and he becomes a dope through half the film. Hey guys, how you doing?
Oh yeah.
So why can't they just, like, if they found on accident every once in a while, they're like, hey, would we don't dick around with a story and actually cast characters that look and act like the characters portrayed in the graphic novel adaptations, which seems remarkably easy because we have pictures of what they're supposed to look like. We have pictures of what the set is supposed to look like. There's no actual room for interpretation here. We have success pretty much handed to us on a fucking blueprint. Turns out when we don't fuck with that, it's actually a really successful thing. Like, how have they not figured that out yet?
Again, remember, once the budgets start going up, that's the point when the studio starts to step in. Believe it or not, it's also happened at Marvel as well.
Oh, I believe it.
Where behind the scenes, that's the reason why one of the reasons why Josh Trank left the Ant-Man film. Because they were trying to say to do certain things, to push him in certain directions, rather than letting him do the thing he wanted to do. Which, granted, I have to say the guy who did direct Ant-Man did a very good job, though.
Yeah, because the thing is, they wanted the movie to be more connected to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stuff, Because the original was supposed to be like a standoff kind of movie, one off.
But I mean, it's fine to augment a little bit. I'm talking just in terms of like, and DC is more guilty of this than Marvel is. Just like reinventing Bane. Like I realize, like, and the more that I think about it in hindsight, the more that I think that they actually did that on purpose. Like they made Bane not the Bane from the comics because it would generate controversy, it would generate fucking free press, it would make people go to the theaters to see what the fuck is going on. You don't have to make a good movie. If you make a big enough tire fire, people will pull over to look at it. That's basically what's going to happen. And so they make this weird Bane kind of character that they know it. They just kind of push it out. They're not actually trying to be relevant to the source material at all, because being relevant to the source material doesn't get asses in the chair. It makes for good reviews, and it probably makes for pretty good DVD sales, but for the most part, we as a group of consumers, like, we just suck. We don't just line up to see a movie that we know is going to suck. I went and paid money for Batman vs. Superman. I knew it was going to be bad, and I still bought a ticket. I don't know why. Because I had to. Because
you
I worked
fell
for
the trap. That's what you did.
Yeah. So I made up for it. I saw Deadpool like a fourth time. So
yes. All right, let's move on. I love how the comic questions always get us crazy.
Well, the thing is, that's one of the things that we're kind of passionate about.
Yeah, no, I
seriously.
love it. I love that shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I love
but the thing
man.
is that it's also kind of cool that we can have the conversation and saying there is a damn good Avengers film. There's a damn good Captain America film.
Exactly.
There's at least two of them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right.
We have an awesome Flash show.
We have an awesome Flash show.
I spent this whole time shitting on DC. Thank you for getting away from whoever was doing your movies and getting them on the right track with your TV shows, because the Flash is awesome. Fucking fix Arrow though. You fix that shit. You fix that shit, and then you feel bad about what you've done.
I need to say this. I just find it really ironic how they aired the Supergirl Flash episode a week after Batman vs. Superman. I'm like,
oh yeah,
why can't the movies be like this? You know how much fun that fucking episode was? And both the characters, guess what? They're like they are in the comic books. It's crazy. All right, last question for Final Stage Boss. This is a good one. How would you rate the God of War games from best to worst?
I think all of ours go in the same direction, don't they?
I'm pretty sure we all have the same worst one. Which one comes in last. I'm pretty sure God of War Ascension, that's like universal.
Yeah, Ascension's the last.
I was so against playing it that I actually didn't even play it.
Yeah.
Was that the second one?
No, Ascension's the final one.
Technically the fourth one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes, I did play that one. I skipped on that one. Let me ask you, while we're talking about God of War and the sequels, what the fuck ever happened to the unmanifested sequel where we were supposed to see what happened to Kratos' brother?
Oh, we saw that.
Oh, that happened.
That happened.
Which one was that?
That's God of War Chains of Olympus.
Yeah.
The PSP one.
Oh, the PSP one.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, that was Ghost of Sparta.
Ghost of Sparta. Oh. That's the one. Sorry.
Also a PSP one.
Yeah. My order for God of War games: the first one, obviously, is still the best God of War game. The second, my favorite, probably Ghost of Sparta. I really like that one. After that would be Chains of Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
Then God of War 3. Then God of War 2, and then the shitty Ascension. So there you go.
I totally agree with that order. My order is exactly the same.
Yes, people. I
God of War, the
two PSP games over the other two real God of War games. But those PSP games were so good, man.
They were so good. The God of War 2 was I liked it, but at the same time, it just had no focus. You're just all over the place in that point.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't. Here's the thing. It is gonna sound weird me saying this. I don't like God of War 2 because it created the stereotype Kratos, where he's just angry and that's all he is. He had some subtlety in the first game, at least. He was this angry motherfucker, but you found out why in the second one. He's just killing for the sake of killing. You know?
Dude, God of War 2 got the same treatment that Bioshock 2 did. Like, oh, you like the source material? Well, here, let's just fucking cram it full of filler, stuff it like a weird, like, or prop it up like a weird stuffed taxidermy animal, and like, there, now we've got a sequel. You're like, yeah, I mean, I guess it feels different. Like, it feels like a plastic variation. Like, it, like a. You buy a really cool set of like Todd McFarlane's Series 1 action figures, and then like you buy an awesome set of like fucking Dark Souls Todd McFarlane action figures, and then you're like, that's awesome. And then Hasbro comes out with their line of Dark Souls action figures, and you pick up one, and then you look at them side by side, and you're like, I guess they're the same thing, technically,
There's a few
kind of.
I don't know. There's a few other things I can say about God of War 2. I know some people are getting pissed off me. What I liked about the first God of War is I like how the whole world wrapped around itself. You know what I'm saying? Brad, I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
God of War 2 didn't have any of that. Then you had the fucking was it the Island of Time? That's not part of Greek mythology. You just made that shit up.
Yeah, now you're just making up shit that, like, as somebody who took Latin class and who loves Greek mythology, I can tell the difference between the shit you're pulling out of your ass and the shit that has historical or literary relevance. Like, you don't even need to pull from history, pull from fables, pull from stories, pull from the large, immense selection of Greek myth you have, and then kind of breed that together with a little bit of actual history. You have so much source material, you don't need to be making shit up. You can go more, you can get local into local legends and that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you have so much source material that you don't need to be making shit up. It's just, it's weird and it's stupid. It defeats the whole point.
To its credit, though, I did watch the documentary on God of War 2, and apparently Sony tased a lot of things that they wanted to do with the game. Like, there was supposed to be Kratos was supposed to go to Atlantis, I believe.
That happened.
Which was in PC PSP
game. Yes, that happened in Chains of Olympus. But they wanted God of War 2, and they did. I don't know if that was the reason the Island of Time got made up for the game, just to fill in something that was cut. But I know there was some production issues on the second.
They said there was also some sort of swimming thing that they were going to
there was
put
a
together
whole
for
swimming
that they removed.
Yeah,
you were supposed to get his trident in that game and then be able to swim.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the last thing was I didn't like the puzzles in that game. See, in God of War 1, when you got into a puzzle room, you're like, okay, I know what the solution is. How the fuck do I figure it out? In God of War 2, you pretty much have to do a bunch of trial and error shit until you do figure it out. I don't like.
Yeah, like that. Wasn't God of War 1 had that one room with the spiked floor, right? You remember that one? That was crazy.
Yeah,
where it was like a timer on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's the one thing I did like about God of War 3 is that it kind of went back to that a little bit.
It went back to that. Yeah, it went back to that.
Where essentially you're in the what I call the God of War playset, and you essentially are in the playset, and you go to different parts of the playset. It's like, oh, hey, look, you're here. Hey, look, I can see the area where I was before. That is cool.
Yeah, where the whole world wraps around itself. They brought that back.
Or like God of War 1, where essentially you get to do all the. They don't like skip you to different parts of the game. Like they'll be like, okay, you have to go. They're like, okay, now you finished in this area. I guess you're in Athens or whatever, and then you have to go across the fucking desert to get to the Titan, and you actually get to do that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Chris, what's your order for the games you played?
I'd say 1 is on top. I'd say Ghost of Sparta. Then I'd say 2. Then Chains of Olympus. 3. Then Ascension.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish Ascension. I finished all the other ones.
Man.
That's how bad it was. I just gave up. I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. Brett, what about you? What's your order?
I only played 3 of them. Mostly because after the third one, it was supposed to be a trilogy from everything that I had been told. Like, there was the first one, and then after the first one, they're like, oh, well done. This game was really successful. We're going to make it into a trilogy. And then somewhere along the line, it changed after the third one came out, and they're like, oh, now we're going to do a prequel. There's a bunch of PSP games. And, like, it went bonkers, and I know Watered Down when I see Watered Down. At least I think I do. So I was just kind of like, I'm just going to tap out of the 9 bazillion God of War games because I'm not going to spend $400 trying to follow this one goddamn story. So
I say the one out of all of them to play is not Chains of Olympus.
Yeah, Schools of Sparta.
It's the Ghost of Sparta.
Yeah, because you get to see Kratos' brother and a bunch
You
of
get
other
to do
shit.
and
yeah,
there's
it delivers everything. It sounds like it delivers everything that it promised for number 2.
That's the one thing about that game that's great about that game is that it's personal again.
Yeah,
It's
remember
not.
that? Yeah, remember that one part where like Kratos had to kill like a monster version of his mother? Like,
Yeah.
That's in there.
That's
you
in it.
know? Like all that shit from the concept that you saw in the end of God of War 1, you get to play in that game.
Oh, see, that's. I'm actually a little sad that I missed that, and maybe I'll go back and check that out. But as
You can get that one on PlayStation 3. Yeah.
So of the 3 that I played, which was 1, 2, and 3, I would definitely put them in the order of 1, 3, 2. So I
Yeah,
think pretty
that's
much the
about
same as you guys, just minus the games that I haven't played.
Yeah, basically. All right. Moving on here, Mr. Gary Swaby leaving us some questions again.
Mr. Swaby.
What, in your opinion, has been the best game featuring a Marvel character? I like this question. But it is a little bit of a tough question.
The best game to feature. Here's the thing. Can we include the Marvel fighting games?
I would say technically yes, but that would be a little bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there has also been really bad Marvel fighting games.
Yes, there has. That's like remember the Imperfects. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Rise of the Imperfects.
Yeah, or that X-Men fight, the other X-Men fighting game.
Yeah, the Apocalypse one, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
Okay.
I already have my answer, but Manny's gonna get mad at me.
What are you gonna say? Spider-Man 2?
No, Hulk Ultimate Destruction. That was the most fun I ever had with a fucking Marvel game, man. I got to
All
be
right. Listen. I'll say to each his own. That's all I'm saying about that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hulk Ultimate Destruction, man. That game was fucking fun, man.
I am going to go with Spider-Man 2.
That's
the movie game.
The movie game.
There's nothing better than swinging around in that city, and it's so well done.
Yeah,
not
it
even
really is.
not even the games that Treyarch made after that game could even compare to how good that first one, that second one was, with doing the open world city. But then, at the same time, that game suffered
My
from
balloon.
yes, they suffered from the worst. There's one of the biggest offenders of the open world game, which essentially they're trying to make to extend your time, your gameplay. So they add these random events that constantly happen over and over again. So there's nothing special about them. And in fact, you need to do a certain amount of those things in order to progress further in the story too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My balloons.
All right, Chris.
Fighting games. Any of the Capcom fighting X-Men games. Any of X-Men, Marvel Super Heroes. Any of those. Those are good.
Oh, my favorite is actually X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like coming off, I was talking about God of War.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
I think I'm
that
gonna.
game was brutal. And so much fun. It was so satisfying.
Tony, earn my respect again.
I'm gonna have to change my answer. I forgot about that one. But I still like Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Hulk Ultimate Destruction was fun, but X-Men Origins Wolverine had a story about 1,000 times better than the movie.
Yes.
Which is like, how can these things be based on the same thing and be so fucking different? Oh man, but that game was good. It was well done.
All right, Brett, what about you?
I'm gonna have to say Spider-Man. I know that X-Men Origins game was apparently pretty good, but I didn't play it because I was just so mad at the movie. Like when people were like, "No, the game is really good," I couldn't believe them, or I couldn't find it in my heart to make peace with that.
But the game was so fucking awesome. It was really good.
What that movie did to Deadpool was it was not okay. It wasn't okay.
It made you not trust your favorite Deadpool,
Right?
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, like no, like I had me and Ryan Reynolds. Well, maybe we had beef for a while, and he may or may not have known about it, but we had beef, and I managed to bury the hatchet with this last movie. Like, all right, clearly it wasn't your fault. Clearly they just did some terrible things to you. So okay.
Oh, man. All right. Next up. Actually, hold on. Okay. What do you think Rockstar should do with the next Grand Theft Auto game to make it more original, since the formula is getting a little repetitive? Good. Another great question.
Grand Theft Auto, huh?
Yeah. What can they do to really make it fresh again? 'Cause even with 5 adding in 3 characters, it still was Grand Theft Auto. You know?
Well,
They could give us our own character.
Oh, you mean make your own character and stuff?
Tony would hate that.
Well, I mean, as long as they talk, I'll be okay. You know?
I'd like to see like a customizable San Andreas kind of thing. Like, there's no reason that you can't be like a character that's an up and coming gangbanger, or the whatever you want to call it.
You know what I would say? I would actually say, with a so-called sandbox world, the things that you do in the world have some heft over the way the actual people in the game perceive you, as well as what ending you get.
You mean? Oh, I mean, they've done something like that in the game.
Well,
but
there's
not
only
really.
in Grand Theft Auto, what was it 3? No, 4.
Yeah.
4, right?
Okay, which would go on.
With the Nico Bellic one, that's 4, right?
Yeah, Nico Bellic. Yeah, that's
That
4.
one had 2 alternate endings, but there's only one thing in that story that allows those 2
Yeah.
things to happen. I like that. I like that dynamic. Where essentially, okay, we have an open world. Now let's go a little bit open with the story as to how it what things that you can do can somewhat change the ending, your final ending. You go to jail or you do something else. Some just a little more freedom as to the direction of your character in the game.
Yeah. Make it a little bit more like Mass Effect.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Mass Effect, but the one thing about Mass Effect is that, you essentially end the game the same way, kind of.
Yeah, that's true. Just how you get there.
You always have to go to the center of the universe and fight the Geth. You can't just go, no way, I ain't going there. I'm just gonna go here and farm some planets for scan these planets forever.
Ah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I scanned the universe.
Scan the universe.
Oh man. Do I have an answer for this? I don't know. I honestly don't know how they I know they do need to innovate, but I can't think of any good ways to innovate it. I guess making the story a little bit more branching, but it's it's a 100-hour story already. Do I want to replay that shit a million times?
No, but I mean the thing at the same time, I feel like it to me that should be the way that it should go. We're talking about a world that's supposedly free, but you're not free in that world. You still have to, if you're playing the game as the direction of the story, you will always have that direction. You will always end up in the same places. The only freedom you have is how you actually do the missions.
Yeah. So if that's the case, make that bigger and freer, right?
Yeah, essentially it's okay, you failed the mission. All right, story goes on. You fucking failed the mission.
Heavy rain,
I would like that kind of a heavy rain kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's
I still remember one of my most tensest game moments was heavy rain. I had just beaten a big part, and I thought I was getting the break, so I had set the controller down to go grab a drink, and I was halfway to the fridge when I heard a rumbling from the table, and I realized that my character was careening down a highway in the game without me.
Oh God!
I know that part, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my sweet Jesus!" And so I just come tearing ass back in the living room, knock over a table, grab the controller, and hurl myself on the couch sideways just in time to veer out of the way of an oncoming semi. It was beautiful. It was great.
Awesome.
I actually cared.
Yeah, I mean, there's again, Heavy Rain has multiple outcomes. I mean, granted, you still end up in the same places, but the things that you do, you could get to the ending and not have any of the characters there with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was freaking out because I wanted to keep all my characters on my first playthrough. I was bound and determined to do that without a walkthrough.
I managed to save them all, and I also managed to find the location of the kid because I didn't I decided to do not to do one thing, which I didn't shoot the father. And in that situation, there is one thing that you get that'll lead you to the kid. So what it was is that they give you an alternate option to get to the end where you listen to this tape and you're like, and you have to pick the location where it is. So that's what I did. I was like, oh wait, that sounds like a dock, and then that's how I got to the ending.
Hmm.
Which is actually kind of cool. Like I was like, oh yeah, I felt happy. I was like, okay, I did the right thing, and I got to meet the save this horrible person who had just been a kid, and then also managed to save my kid, Jason.
Jason. All right, Chris.
What can they do to innovate? I would say merge GTA Online and 6 together. Make it one kind of MMO world where what other people do affects your game. Don't make static characters like Michael and Trevor, whatever. Let you create your own character, and the story revolves around that character. And make an intelligent system where it's like if you pick male or female or whatever, the story can change around it. And then let other people can come in your world and do crazy shit, kind of like Dark Souls, but do more with that. If somebody comes and robs a bank in your world and you're like, what the fuck is going on, and you do something about it, or you're like, oh, maybe I'll join them and
Hmm.
like shit. I think that'd be pretty interesting because I don't know if they don't do something like that, then it's just the same thing over again. You're just like, how many times are you gonna tweak character stories? Like, you have 3 characters this time. You're gonna go back to 1 character. Or you're gonna make 5 characters you played through. I don't think that's the way to go. I think the way to go is like no more canned characters, right? Let people make their own unique character in GTA. That's the first thing. And the second thing, integrate more online elements into it. Like, I don't know if it's that you're just your friends co-op or somebody can be in your world randomly and just screw around with it or try to assassinate you or things like that. I think there could be interesting things with that, but more so think along MMO lines, and I think that would refresh the game for people.
I would agree with that. I really like how in some games they're starting to blur the line between single and multiplayer games. And I don't mean like The Division is doing. I'm talking more along the lines of Dark Souls. I would agree with that. I think the taking away the barrier between single player and multiplayer actually helps to add a lot of longevity to a game.
Yeah, I think if I was playing, let's say I was playing GTA, hypothetical GTA 6, right? And I robbed a few banks. And let's say in Tony's world, he's like, I don't know, a fucking hitman. And somebody's like, hey, somebody's robbing our banks. This guy. Then he comes into my city, right? He comes into my game seamlessly. He comes to hunt me down, right? Because I jacked another mafia's banks or something, kind of create that kind of rivalry, but make it seamless. Like, Tony's in his world doing his thing. He's a hitman. Somebody puts a hit out on me in my game, and he takes up the bounty and comes to kill me.
Maybe you're allowed to be part of a cop. Maybe hijack a cop car in GTA, right? And then press the middle touchpad button to activate your police scanner radio, which will let you know other players in other worlds who are maybe robbing banks. And if you hear somebody say robbery on 4th Street, blah blah blah, you press circle to accept the job. Then it kind of seamlessly bleeds together the worlds, and suddenly they're racing through the streets in your game, and you're a cop in their world.
Yeah,
That's actually very close. From what Chris was talking about, that's very close to what Watch Dogs did with the multiplayer. Essentially,
It's what Watch Dogs wanted to do. They failed miserably.
They did, essentially, the more horrible things you did to people, like stealing their information, all of a sudden, hey, now somebody's after you to catch your bounty. But I do think that's a really good idea, where essentially you get inside the car, you kind of bring back the old Rampage things, where you're kind of like, okay, now you've accepted this mission. So now you got to go to these other places. Go to these places and chase down these guys. Wouldn't it be also interesting if the taxis worked that way too?
Yes.
Where essentially, okay, somebody hails the taxi, yo, taxi. Then you while you're in the taxi, you go and you take the taxi, and then you drive them to the next location.
Dude, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. And then the whole point is to get them there safely amidst the chaos that is GTA Online.
Yes.
I'd hire drivers all the time that way.
Yeah, I think
It'd be like Crazy Taxi.
I think there's a lot they can do with that, and I mean they should if they go along those lines, they should include more fun stuff, like kind of like I'm not saying go like Saints Row, where Saints Row has gone like ultra crazy, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
But put some of the fun stuff back. Like I miss San Andreas, man. You could do a lot of fun stuff in that game. I feel like Grand Theft Auto 4 was like fun time is over. This is serious. I'm like, oh man, I can't fly anymore. I can't swim underwater. I can't
Grand
do
Theft Auto was very much that should have been its tagline. Grand Theft Auto 4, fun time is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is gray now.
At 5, a little bit of stuff was put back in, but I feel like go nuts, man. Go nuts with 6. Like bring back some of the stuff with San Andreas, like Manny said. Bring back some of that Rampage stuff and integrate it with online stuff. I think that would be cool. Vigilante modes and taxi mode and ambulance mode and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think there's no reason to keep your single player character aside from your other character. Like, it's fun playing the single player game in GTA, but like then when you're done, you're like, oh, that's great. I wish some of the stuff that I had just done, transferred to my multiplayer character.
Yeah, I think they should do that. Like, you should make a custom character and kind of like expand on what Mass Effect did. Remember, Mass Effect would ask you all these questions about Shepard's past and stuff, and
Yeah.
based on that, people's dialogue would change. Well, do that with this character. You don't need Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. Tony makes his character, right? And based on a bunch of questions or a series of incidents from his past, right, that shapes the narrative. And then going forward, going forward, you just do whatever you want.
Or again, then there's also the Mass Effect thing where you choose the thing you want to say to people. Now you're not just forced to playing the way you think the way Nico is portrayed, but you're playing the way you want to play. So it's like you walk over to this guy and he's like, I need this job, but then he's kind of a dick. You're like, well, fuck off.
All right, let's move on. Next question here. Last one from Gary, actually. When was the last time you played games at someone else's house, and was it more enjoyable than playing online? Another
Plenty
great
of
question.
times.
Yeah, I mean, I always said I prefer to play at somebody's home or have somebody play at my house than playing some random asshole online. It's always
There's just
better.
that dynamic, especially like I go back to like when we were like teenagers, like me, Tony, and our buddy Mike, our friend, our friend,
Evil Chris.
the other Chris, Evil Chris, or 1602 Chris, or whatever we call him.
Yeah, 616 Chris.
616, yeah, 616 Chris. We would all get together. We play friggin' Virtua Fighter and all the Capcom games, stuff like that, and it was fun.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we've had situations where we've done that before, where we've played a couple of rounds of Guilty Gear, at my place and stuff, and it's cool.
Yeah, like my boy Anthony, he came over like 2 months ago to play Street Fighter 5, and it was like, this is the shit. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely that for sure. I always trying to pick. The only problem is like obviously, it's very difficult to do that because everybody's old and has jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
wives and shit. So you're kind of forced to play online. You don't have much of a choice, but if given the choice, yeah, it's always more fun to play offline with your friends.
I do have to say that the being able to talk to your friends while you're doing these sorts of things has made it a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
Being,
It's like I can't play fucking Dark Souls with Brett and Chris for obvious reasons, but I get to talk to them while I play them online, so that's good.
Yeah.
Why can't you play with us?
Because you live in fucking Kansas and Chris lives in Texas.
Oh,
yeah, he
well,
can't.
okay,
He
you
can't
mean
physically go to your place and play Dark Souls with you.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was like, you
we
can't
can't
play
set up
online
like a
with us.
LAN
Okay.
party. I can't do that. So the next best thing is to play with you guys online where I could talk to you. So
Yeah.
and you almost replicate that, almost. Except you're not like throwing shit at each other or whatever.
And then you also
Red, check this out, man. You just killed me, Tony. You son of a bitch.
yeah, you can't punch him in the face or something.
I hit him.
The other thing that at least for the remote play portion of things, that has also brought back the one player kind of co-op that you do. Like at least when I was a kid, my cousin would always come over and we beat Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear, together. I'd take a chance at the level, he takes a chance at a level, and we got through the game together. And that's that. The share play has kind of done that too.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anybody else have anything to say about this?
Yeah.
I think we all like. I thought we're like, yeah, we prefer to play with our buddies in real life.
Yeah.
If we all had a friggin' Stargate and it didn't take like 4 hours or whatever to get across the country to each other, we'd probably walk through the Stargate. He's like, "Yo, let's play some games."
Let me go to my PlayStation real quick. I want to know the guy that goes, "No, man, I prefer to play online." I want to know who that is. But then again, we're old school, so who knows?
The guy who doesn't like wearing pants.
Yes, that's also true. All right. Next up, Mr. Ronan. He goes, I'll probably pick up Ratchet and Clank by the end of the month. Here's the actual question. This is a good question too. Out of the PS2 trio of platformers, why do you think Ratchet and Clank was the most successful franchise when compared to the Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter series? Great question that I've been thinking about like a lot for the last couple of hours. But mainly I see you doing faces over there. So why don't you go first?
Guns.
Jak and Daxter has guns too.
They had guns later on.
Yeah.
Jak and Daxter didn't stick to their guns.
They didn't stick to their guns. It's friggin' guns. That's it. Having those crazy nutty guns in those games, that's what's done. What's done it. I mean, for the most part, Ratchet and Clank games. If you removed all the guns, the controls are just the same. Hit things, jumping, double jumping, jumping with a helicopter.
The more risque of the games.
Yes, that is also true too. That game does not.
Is it the most? I mean, dialogue-wise, yes. Of the original ones,
it had the most attitude, quote unquote. Yeah. Even in the names, like Up Your Arsenal, it as a kid, and this is really important to like a 12, 13-year-old kid. You don't want to play the shiny, perfectly clean version. You want to play the kind of conquersy version. So even just a little bit of an edge, like, makes all the difference because, like, it's the same way when you're 13, you're too cool to go to Disney movies. Like, now that I'm an adult, like, yeah, I'll enjoy the shit out of a Disney movie. But, like, when I was 13, man, I was too fucking cool for that shit. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting? Jak and Daxter, they forced Edge onto that series. Remember the first game? And then the second one, he's like, he's all emo all of a sudden.
Yeah, and he had the split personality disorder.
Yeah, exactly. And then Sly Cooper, even though he's a thief, he was like a very Robin Hood type of thief, right? Now, Ratchet and Clank themselves, right? Just those two characters, actually the cleanest characters out of all of them, right? But the world around them was fucking crazy.
The world around them was crazy, and at the same time, they were also self-aware of how stupid things were too.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the other. Yeah, like the franchise always kind of they didn't. I don't know. It's not breaking the fourth wall. It's like breaking the 3.5 wall. They were very cognizant of what they were doing, but without like giving a total.
It got meta. Audience. It got meta. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you need to go to this planet. They say something there, and they're like, why would we even go to a planet of fire?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think also Ratchet and Clank kind of had the perfect set of elements from the beginning that got slightly improved later, whereas Jak and Daxter took this like 90-degree hard right into like edgy, like, because they were in this simple world, there wasn't a lot of technology and stuff, and then Jak 2, all of that got thrown right out the window, and then all of a sudden it was like all hardcore, they had guns in there and stuff, and then at some point they had racing in it. I'm like, okay, they don't know what to do with this. Sly Cooper made lots of improvements over the series, like the hub world and the way his health worked and stuff. Like, they made these leaps. And I thought that story was good, but Ratchet and Clank kind of nailed it from the beginning and made subtle improvements there. Also, their storytelling was like on from the beginning too.
Yeah, it was not only was it on, but it was better, you know.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do, you know, we all like all three franchises here, right? I
Yeah.
like all three of them, just to get that out there. But you're right, Chris, and I didn't think about that. The first Sly Cooper game was not like the other Sly Cooper games
No,
at
they
all. Like,
completely changed it. Yeah.
Yeah, remember they went with the open world type of thing where
no,
essentially.
it wasn't open world. It's like in the first game you just played a Sly, and that's it. I remember when I played Sly 2, I didn't like the game until the end because I'm like, I don't want to play as a turtle. I don't want to play as the hippo. I want to play as fucking Sly. What the fuck is this shit?
You want to play a Sly?
You know, it wasn't until then I'm like, hey, playing as these other characters is kind of cool. But you're right, Ratchet and Clank, they nailed it from the beginning, and each game was just an improvement on that formula. You know, and playing the remastered, not the remastered, the redone version of one, I'm like, yeah, they kind of nailed this shit from the beginning, didn't they, man?
Yeah.
You know.
And whereas I think they got Sucker Punch got a lot of feedback from Sly Cooper. I don't know how or where, but they like I remember the things I hate about that first game. I'm like, why the fuck didn't this guy die in one hit? Why doesn't he have a fucking health bar? And why is the hub world so confusing? And it's like they took all that feedback. This is like pre-Twitter or anything. And they're like, okay, and then Sly 2 fixed all of those things, you know.
Yeah.
But they didn't have it from the beginning, so it's like they kept taking feedback and changing things and trying to improve the games. It's like, oh, I want somebody must have said I want to play as Bentley, I want to play as the other guy, and they're like, okay, we can throw in stuff for them.
The Murray.
The Murray. Yeah, I like those games though, but Ratchet and Clank I think nailed it from the beginning. And
Yeah,
Hey, come on, you gotta love. What was his name, Mister Zurgatroyd or whatever?
Oh, Zircon?
Mr. Zarkon.
Mr. Zircon, will bring you death. You know?
And he's from 2, Mr.
Yeah,
Zircon.
Here's the funny thing: the new game has Mr. Zircon. You want to hear something funny? One of the bosses in the game is Mrs. Zircon. It's fucking awesome. Oh man! By the way, in the new game, there's this. Okay, remember that mechanic guy you meet for the first time?
Yes.
He meets you. He's like, hey, it's good to see you again, right? Just like, I've never met you before. What are you talking about? And then they talk and stuff. You do your thing with him, and then at the end he's like, hey, good. It was good seeing you. I'll see you for the next reboot. And Ratchet's like, what?
Nice.
All right. Moving on here. Killax. Okay. He goes. Pretend you're in a meeting trying to sell a pitch for your perfect VR game. How will you describe this game to be unique and different from anything out there? Brett, this is like a perfect question for you, man.
How would you I mean, by definition, most VR games are kind of unique at this point. Like, there is no such thing as a mainstream VR game. So
that's a good point.
I would probably start by being like, all right, guys, imagine this. It works. Right? Right? Yeah. Like, everything does what it's supposed to? We'll make millions. That's all you need, really. Okay. Don't strain yourselves, but imagine that we didn't fuck this up. And end. The license to print money. Done. That's you don't have to sell the concept, really, I guess. I think it was pretty much, it would be like that video I sent you, Tony, where it showed a guy like putting gloves on in front of a green screen, and then it basically superimposed what he was seeing over, or what he would be seeing over his actual hands. So you saw him like kind of pick up a a steering wheel, and all of a sudden, like, you couldn't tell where he stopped, the game began. Like, you were actually seeing a video feed of his hands holding a steering wheel controller, but then you saw the cockpit over top of it. You really couldn't tell where one stopped and the other one started. It was
crazy.
Kind of great, actually. So I don't think there's any way that you could visually pitch this. That's the problem with VR, is that you can't tell somebody how cool it would be. By definition, you would almost have to show them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I liked your first point too. It's like, hey guys, it works. It works as intended.
Imagine a world where VR worked.
Yes, Carl Sagan. I don't know how to answer this question because I never really thought about that, but I'm gonna go with yeah, it fucking works. There you go. That's your perfect VR game. It doesn't feel like it's a gimmick. It feels like an actual game that feels natural within the VR like genre. That's my pitch. Like this is the VR game, guys. All right, what about you guys? Anything else?
Miles of beef and pork.
The planet of meat.
The planet of meat. Uh, let's see. I agree with Brett. Where it's yes. Imagine a world where it worked, and try to do that. As far as selling VR to my VR idea to people.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mm, I would, one thing. I mean, I'm sure this can already be done now because because of big scanning and stuff. But actually being able to visit a place that actually exists that you could never get to.
Hmm. Like a
So
travel simulator.
yeah, maybe going like essentially you can have all these stupid walking simulator games, but why not actually try to rebuild a place that actually exists? Not many people can afford to go to the Louvre in France, right? So why
Yeah.
not rebuild an art museum and give people the ability to get as close to the artwork as they can and not have to worry about going over the red line and then causing the alarms to go off, you know? I would see something like that, like essentially rebuilding places that that actually exist and being able to go there. Go to the top of Mount Everest, see what that looks like, stuff like that. Not exactly games.
Yeah. Chris, what do you say?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this one, man. To
Yeah.
be honest with you, I wouldn't even know because like I'm seeing all this stuff and it's like, I don't know, man. Like honestly, like I don't know how to answer this one.
All right, fair enough. I mean,
I,
yeah,
I
this
just
is
I
the
just
kind
see
of again, we don't VR isn't really a thing yet.
I think that VR should also not be also it's shouldn't be thought of as in terms of games. It should not only be thought of, it's not only a device that you can also game with, but it can also be a device for other things, which obviously a lot of different companies, even before the kind of home VR has happened, have also taken part in. You know, theoretically, if you want to, you can, you can make places that don't exist or explore environments that don't exist. You know, you can do stuff like that. You can even turn a lot of those simulation. You can actually make a spot on simulation. All those simulator games that allow surgeons to do these things. They can actually make a really good one because they already know how to do it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I mean, you could do a lot of different things because you're in control of the person's peripheral view.
All right, move on here. It's a tough question to answer. Admittedly, if you could change something, oh, this is a good one. If you could change something about this console generation, what would it be? Ooh, man, I don't know if I should go first because I've actually been thinking a lot about this even before the question.
I
Like,
could go real quick.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because I may have to go off on a little bit of a rant. Actually,
I wish
like,
Xbox had been designed to play games as opposed to be a multimedia machine. I think that way you would see a little less disparity between the systems and a little bit more healthy ecosystem between the consoles right now.
where is the sound effect for ooh?
I agree.
That's gonna get it.
I definitely agree. But I mean, at the same time, for some reason, it's like you think to yourself, why did Microsoft see this as the future? Essentially, making a not. It's funny because it's the way Microsoft went with their gaming console is totally opposite direction of someplace like a Sony would go. If you think about it, because they are the media company, they own music, they own movies, they all those things. So why isn't that why wouldn't that have been a move for Sony initially,
Right?
right? But it's like they kind of played opposite day. For me, as I definitely think that is true right there with what Brett said, but I also want to say I wish that the kind of Microsoft versus Sony, Sony versus Microsoft, whatever you want to call it, hasn't got like that talk has gotten so bad that nobody can just say, okay, I enjoy this game, that's cool, rather than it has to kind of turn into the silly war bullshit, you know.
Ooh, I like that. You're taking it outside of just like the actual consoles and within the whole community. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
I definitely think that that's the biggest part. That's the part that makes this sort of this not fun. Hearing, it's like hearing an announcement and then initially hearing some other douchebag say, "Oh, hey, this is shit. I don't know why anybody would buy this." It's like, dude, it's whatever.
Stop being a dick about it.
Yeah, don't be a dick about it. Yeah, well, to use that guy's line, but
Hey, I said about it.
yes.
Don't be a Wesley about it.
Don't be a Wesley about it. But yeah, that's my biggest issue of it, because it takes all it just sucks all the fun out of the room. It's like, hey, look, everybody is like, it's a whole room filled with Christmas presents that you got waiting for you, and then the first thing that somebody opens, some douchebag's got to say, oh, well, that's not the good one. You didn't get the good one. You got the bad one. Essentially trying to make you feel bad for the purchase that you've made.
Yeah, it's a great
Or
point.
the gift that you've gotten.
Yeah, all right. I've been thinking about the console generation a lot lately, especially with what's going on with all the fucking the PS4 Neo, the fucking new Xbox that's coming out. It kind of lets me kind of I guess go with more the thing I've been saying since this console generation started. I think we kind of started this shit too fucking early. It's like if we would have waited, we probably would have got a better console generation. This console
God
generation,
damn it, Tony!
Brett, you know it's true.
No, I don't know it's true. We spent far too long on this last console generation. I think the problem is we waited too long.
Yeah.
No, hear me out.
Yeah.
I think we waited too long.
Go ahead. Yeah.
If we had actually done the console generation at the fucking 6-year mark, the way that it normally would have been done, then this disparity wouldn't have happened. We waited fucking 8 years though. Like you want a decade between console releases? Consoles were already falling so far behind their PC counterparts that it was damn near laughable.
Here's the problem: the shit that you got, right? We didn't start playing actual now gen consoles until last year. Think about the fucking
yeah, because it took them forever to fucking produce games for the console.
Yes,
that doesn't mean they should have waited to make the console. It just means they should have made the games fucking sooner.
I don't know about but you couldn't have made the game sooner on that old tech.
No,
that's the thing.
No, exactly. So they should have made the new consoles when they did. They should have just refurbished them with games. My point is, you can't wait 10 years between an experience and the next generation experience. A decade to wait before a severe quality of life improvement in your hobby, a decade is far too long to wait for that.
Hey, Brett, I'm going to blow your mind right now. That's exactly what happened.
No, I know that's exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened, dude.
Okay, you're missing why I'm complaining. I am saying that's the exact problem. We waited 10 fucking years to get better games. How is it that when we waited 10 years to get better games and that's too long, everybody's answer is we should have waited longer to get more consoles? No, because then it would have just been 12 years before we got good next-gen games. Waiting longer doesn't help solve the problem at all.
But the thing is, even if you would have gotten sooner, you would have gotten you wouldn't have gotten better games than we have now.
How do you know?
Because you know why? Because what is everything now? It's a fucking remake. It's just another sequel. That's what I'm saying. Another console.
So how would waiting longer to release a PlayStation be giving us a better gaming experience right now?
I don't know.
Okay, then why are you advocating it?
Because we obviously saw that releasing them early didn't work, so maybe releasing them later would have worked.
But no, we didn't release them early. We released them at the 8-year mark, which was far later than any previous console generation. Roll over.
Games. We still got the same fucking games, dude.
The thing is, you also got to understand is that just because they released them later doesn't exactly mean releasing them early, releasing them at the time they did, or releasing them later wouldn't have made a difference because they would have still started the games at the same amount of time. What should have happened is they released they released all the specs and everything, they solidified all that earlier, and then the console came out.
But again,
Yes.
like I said, we didn't get these. The way I see it, it's like, we already did wait an extra 2 years for the console generation to actually.
Okay,
But again,
that's
that's what Brett is saying. Essentially, even if we would have waited a year, you still would have had the same issue.
Yeah,
Would-
the
would you
problem
have-
is
year or
would you
two.
would you have had as many remasters and sequels?
yes, you would have.
How do you know that?
Because
Tony,
the thing is that how long did it take them to solidify what what was inside of the consoles? It took them it took them
For
they
this
were,
generation,
for this generation. It literally they were adjusting things like literally almost a year right before the thing said. They're like, okay, no, now this has this, now this has this. They were still fixing things, and I think that's what the problem is. They didn't solidify what it was that they were going to be designing for.
Yeah, Tony, there wasn't enough pre-production. Look at it this way. If I announce the Brett Murdoch Gaming Station 1 fucking today, right? And I wait 2 years to release it from the time of announcement, and then I release it, and then once I release it, about a month before I release it, I send out dev kits. These dev kits make it to your gaming development company, right? You then take 2 years to develop a good game fully utilizing the power of my gaming console. So after release, 2 years after release, you see a game come out. Now, I could announce my gaming system and release it in 2 years, and 2 years after that, you would have a game for it. I could announce my game system, and 4 years after that, you could release a game, or I could release my system, and then 2 years after that, you would have a game system. Regardless, you can't make a game in less than 2 years. So you can't make a game until 2 years after I get you a development set, right? So the problem became Sony didn't give the developers enough time to pre-make their games. They didn't give them the correct dev kit specs, so a lot of companies couldn't start working on games for the PS4. In fact, that's why a lot of the first generation of games were on the PS3/PS4, because they were working in this weird amalgamous territory, so they had to work with a game that was simple by nature but could be upscaled to quote-unquote next-gen experience, which means they had to make a last-generation game with a layer of spit polish on it. They couldn't make a next-gen game until they got the final specs. So it doesn't matter how long you wait until the next generation is announced. It's not until a couple years after you get the dev kits in somebody's hands that they'll come out with a good game. And the problem was Sony didn't get the dev kits into people's hands soon enough. And so you saw an inevitable wait. And this would happen if they waited 12 years between consoles, 20 years between consoles. If they don't get the dev kits into the devs' hands soon enough, they're not going to see the proper support they need for launch. And that's where Sony failed in this generation, is they did not have the proper support at launch.
And I can't even argue that, because think about it. Remember the PlayStation reveal event, right? It was in February 2013. Console came out in November of that year, right? When they announced, hey, we have 8 gigs of DDR5 RAM, the developers were like, whoa, really? Like, they didn't even know. So that you have a point there. It's like they didn't fucking tweak this. But I still say, even if we would have got these consoles earlier, we still would have get the same fucking games, the same So you know what? I think, to alter my answer, I think what I would change about this generation is the fucking recycling that we've seen. We've seen just fucking remasters and sequels and the same ideas over and over and over again. I think that's what I would change. Maybe the consoles themselves aren't the problem. It's the fucking, like, the studios. Because think about it, most games now, AAA games, they're not going to take any chances. They're going to do what has worked. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get a lot of the same shit. So,
yeah.
You know what? So that's my actual answer. Just think about everything you guys just said, because it wouldn't have made a damn difference if we would have got the consoles 3 years ago. We'd still get the same fucking games, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That's what I would change. Stop with the fucking recycling. Come up with new ideas. You have new consoles, and you're coming up with the same fucking games because you're playing it safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a difference, though. Like, if you want to actually look at, treat this like a time travel movie and go back and change one little thing, if they had released the gaming generation gaps sooner, right? Like if the new consoles had come sooner, that means games like Black Flag would have been developed exclusively for next generation systems, as opposed to being an upscaling of current gen technology.
Yeah,
So
you'd still get the same game,
Flag,
but it might have been better, right? That's what you're trying to say?
oh, it would have been way better because the gameplay would have been more fleshed out. The mechanics you would have seen more interactive, more well-bred worlds. And I think that's the problem. Because we waited so long between generation jumps, is where we got this whole love affair with super shiny, high-polished graphics. It's the reason that now people are afraid to explore new gameplay mechanics because the market has gotten used to the most polished thing ever. And so if you come out with a game that's a little rough around the edges, but deep down has a heart of gold, it has trouble hooking. That's kind of the reason that Dark Souls is just finally now picking up. Like a lot, even when I first played the first Dark Souls games, I was like, man, this game has like a retro feel to it, not a great way. Like everything kind of feels barren and a little bit sparse, and like you don't realize how well crafted it is until you actually give it a chance. And I think now, because of the way that the PlayStation 3 was built, and because they're like, well, we can't give everything AI, we can't make every door open, we can't have every object be able to be picked up, we can't manipulate clothing the way that we want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-render as much as possible, make a super simple game, but make it look as fancy as possible, right? And that's the way that we can exploit this gaming hardware to its fullest potential. Because it could render things, but it couldn't process things. And that's a very key difference. And so we end up with a whole generation of games based on poorly processed, highly rendered games, which are, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle. They look great. You can only do 4 different things from them. They're not any more complicated than your old Street Fighter or Double Dragon games. They just look a whole hell of a lot nicer. So honestly, if we would have released the newer generation earlier, we might see more complex games as opposed to just shiny, super polished games. It might have.
Well, the thing is that also, yeah, I don't know if it would have, if making it earlier would. I agree with the second part of it. I think it's just we needed to have more time with all of it. Really, I mean, the thing is that you're saying that these guys are going to go off and being in the generation that they were in, coming from the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, that automatically these guys are going to go out on a limb and make a game that they would make later on in the console cycle. That's probably not going to happen.
I'm more saying that we kind of set a standard by locking ourselves into one console generation for so long. We set a standard of visual fidelity over gameplay. And I think that legacy still persists, even though we've outgrown those hardware limitations. We still expect a game to look better, or to look really good, more than we expect it to play really good. Like if a game is a little shallower, the gameplay mechanics, or it gets a little janky right here, but you can cheese your way through it, I'll forgive it until I get to the next
But this is also
gen.
coming from the guy who bought the PlayStation 3 because the games look because it runs the games better.
You mean the PlayStation 4 because it runs
The
the games better?
PlayStation 4, yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, on my end, like I'm always big on more processing power in games. Like I will always advocate for more CPU as opposed to more GPU. I think we have more GPU than we fucking need right now. Like I think you can do some amazing things with the current graphics processing power we have, but the processing power of games is severely lacking. Games are less interactive now than they used to be. I feel like it'd be really tough to have a game even that has the depth of like fucking Earthbound at this point. Like games don't want to let you change the world. They don't want to let you interact with the world. They're getting more restrictive, and I personally blame that on games that are based more on visuals than the actual mechanics of the game. And it's the same reason, like it's the reason that you hear people talking about how Fallout looks like shit. Like Fallout 4 looks amazing, just subjectively, aesthetically, the game looks beautiful. Yeah, it may not be like Crisis on maxed out settings beautiful, but the game is still ridiculously beautiful, and the sheer amount of stuff in the game should, at least in my opinion, qualify it for a little bit of an exemption from the how polished is this turd awards. But I still constantly hear people bitching about how terrible Fallout looks. And I'm like, fucking really? Like, you can't appreciate the meat of a game because it doesn't have enough layers of shiny polished wax on top of it. Like, you can't see yourself glistening in its visage.
But I
To
think
me seems ridiculous.
Hey Brett, welcome to the current gen.
No, that's what I'm
but-
saying. Like, that seems ridiculous, and I feel like that was something that was left over from the previous generation when they're like, we don't have the computer processing power to do anything.
The thing is that also at the same time, you have trouble for the general audiences, not other than gamers. There's it's always about what you can see. What are the improvements that you can see over the last generation? And that's what they're trying to sell. I mean, you have a game like Shadow of Mordor, which is also a very close to launch game, right?
Yeah, and Shadow of Mordor is still the only real current gen game I consider because it has a feature that could not be done.
It had a feature that could not be replicated, and it was something that was processing based and memory based rather than actually being graphical based, which the game did look very nice.
I really could just do a whole podcast on this, but that's one thing I wanted. When I said this before the current gen started, I wanted to see more under the hood improvements that made it feel next gen, and I haven't really seen that at all. Like better AI, like better destructible worlds or whatever. Subtle little things. You don't see that shit. Even with the Division, able to close doors and stuff in a car. Like, why don't we see more stuff like that? And the Division let me down at that point, by the way. Like you're supposed to have all this cool shit under the hood, and it really doesn't. It's just very superficial.
Dude, that's the thing that bothers me the most. That the place of the most broken promises come from the CPU lacking things. When they're like, oh, you'll be able to enter all the buildings. Nope, lol. Turns out you can't enter all the buildings. You'll be able to open and interact with all the doors. You'll be able to shut windows and shoot out glass. Nope. Turns out you won't be able to do that. Oh, you'll be able to knock down walls and be able to, plant a C4 charge and blow your way into the hallway next door before you take a shotgun to everybody's face. Oh, nope. Turns out we can't do that. Like, all the things that we really want, destructible environments, a narrative that tailors itself to your experience, characters that remember you and have branching dialogue trees, or maybe they themselves are affected through the course of your actions in an ever-changing immersive world. These are all things that are done through CPU, not GPU. These are not graphics things. These are all gameplay under the hood things, and they're all the things that people get super excited for, and they're all the things that never fucking manifest. And they're the things that piss me off. And they're like, but look how good it looks. To which case, oh man, I am so sick of that shit.
But look how good it looks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Chris, get in here because we could go on all night about this shit. What's the one thing that bothers you the most about this generation, or that you would change?
That I would change. I think that I kind of agreed with you on the starting time of the generation. I know Brett was saying like you didn't want a longer generation, but I think a longer generation would have allowed a couple of things to happen with this one. It would have allowed them to spec out better hardware on both sides. I think there would have been a lot of rethinking on what hardware to use, and obviously with how hardware cycles work, we would have gotten better hardware off the bat. And now we're getting kind of these refreshes now, which kind of shows me that they skimped on both sides. They skimped on the hardware, and they had to because of cost and whatever. So that changed the whole. That would change the whole landscape of what we would have now in our entertainment centers. And then secondly, it would have allowed them to give developers more time with it to see what they could do. But I don't. There's a culture in AAA that's changed now. Like look at the PS2 generation, right? Those are a lot of firsts in there, right? A lot of people took tons of chances with titles. That's where we saw Ratchet and Clank was born, Sly Cooper was born, Infamous, like all this stuff. Like not Infamous, sorry.
Like
Sorry.
Sly Cooper stuff.
Yeah, those games, like and now Tony said they're playing it safe. They absolutely are. We're just getting remasters and sequels, definitive editions. We're not getting anything new. No, hardly anybody. Indie guys are taking chances, right? And that's why we're seeing that people leaning towards that stuff and that stuff kind of doing well. But
I also feel that it's also a money thing too. Like the big guys are less willing to make those sort of changes because it does. It's a catch-22 for them. They spend
Well,
so
yeah,
much money on
the
it.
culture in there is like if you're going to spend $500 million to develop something like Destiny, then yeah, you need a huge return on investment, and that forces these big studios in one direction. They have to just make what they think is going to sell, right? And push it as hard as possible. And that kind of pushes everything else out of the way. So I feel like indie guys working with limited resources and stuff, yeah, we're getting cool games, but they're small in scope and whatever because they don't have these kind of budgets or these teams or whatever to make these grand fucking titles, you know? And
Yeah.
But can't they follow a development cycle kind of like Portal did, where you have test mechanics or small low budget games that then get picked up by? Is it just that we need more Valves in the world?
I mean, you would need something like that, but that would invest in independent studios. Like instead of it all being in Valve, like what you were talking about, Valve, that's all under their umbrella, right? Those guys are testing stuff in there, and then it becomes a game and it ideates into a property. But there's lots of little guys who are making great ideas, but you don't want them to be like bought out, right, and brought under an umbrella because I think then you cause stagnation, and then you just have lost things. I think that not with crowdsourcing, but you need kind of Valve to go out and say, hey, we like what X studio is doing, we're going to invest in that, without bringing them into the fold and then burying the idea if it doesn't pan out, right?
You know what? I'd like to see a crowd investor kind of thing, like like investment capitalists.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, if Valve was investing in outside studios, like because if you don't, you end up with like what happens with Blizzard. Blizzard ideates on tons of titles that just get buried because they go through their own internal process and just go, this isn't good enough, and then it goes in the garbage, right? We don't get StarCraft Ghost because somebody in there didn't like it and goes in the trash. You don't get Project Titan again, or they look at the market right now. Blizzard's all about that cash, so they're like, hey, you know what's doing well? MOBAs. Throw Titan out the window. We're done with MMOs. We're going into esports, and then you get Overwatch, right?
Ugh.
So you don't want that. Like you don't want Blizzard acquiring like talent from outside and bringing them in to make their thing. What you want is somebody funding the outside talent so that they do have the opportunity to make something great, because they may have a great idea, but it's overshadowed by something like Destiny. Nobody has the kind of money like EA or Activision to push anything or really build up a team to develop something big, right? So what you need is somebody like with the ideation and like the culture of Valve to invest in someone outside and then help them to publish it. But that's like a cultural issue outside the consoles. With the hardware itself, yeah, they should have waited. They should have spec'd out some better system scope and stuff. And maybe even this should have been the generation that was modular, right? That could have had modular upgrades, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
By the way, I find it funny that you said basically the same thing I said and you didn't get yelled at. To bring that up.
Well, no,
in fairness, though, he substantiated his argument as opposed to being like, I don't know, I just figured it would help.
Even though I said the same exact thing, I didn't hear a difference between what Chris said and what I said.
No,
dude, I totally asked you, how would it help to have a generation that waited longer? And you're like, I don't know, I just feel like it would.
But it would have.
But you didn't give me examples. Chris gave me two very clear examples and then supported them thoroughly.
But it was, I mean, okay, I'll give you that. But granted, it was kind of already in there. It's like if you would have waited, you would have had these guys actually maybe have better chipsets and all that other crap.
But the thing is that I also feel like, again, if they let's say they waited the amount of time to adjust to do the adjustments they need to do, they still need to give their developers the right time to do these things. Again, even if they did solidify it, they waited a year to solidify and put some good stuff inside of there. Who knows when they will start sending out dev kits? We could still have the same situation. Just the hardware is a little bit better.
I don't think so, because 4 or 5 years out, you already know what type of hardware is going to be available. You're already talking to like chipset makers. You're already talking to AMD. You already know what their hardware cycle is going to be. They're already promising what kind of chip pipeline, or what kind of RAM, what kind of bus speeds you're going to have. So
So
you can get devs coding against that, sort of like black box coding. You can get them kind of testing ideas and emulating things, right, with other hardware before you give them dev kits. But you have to have that plan.
But this could you could
Yeah.
also accomplish the same thing by releasing the consoles earlier in the generation instead of pushing it back from 8 years towards the 11-year mark or the 12-year mark. You could just put out a console every 6 years, and oh look, you have the same thing. Like and in the meanwhile, you don't have something get so horribly dated. Like my major problem is, as a console gamer with a bunch of PC gamer friends, like I am sick of being a laughing stock by the time the end of the generation rolls around. Like especially the end of the PS3 generation. Like oh my god, like console games were absolute shit compared to PC games. I mean, absolute shit. It was like trying to play on a fucking speaking spell. Like the discrepancy between the of game quality was getting like honestly embarrassing. And if it had gone another year or two, I probably would have abandoned consoles altogether.
Oh shit. By the way, I need to bring this up because I've heard it before. They were saying that, or I've read that apparently one of the reasons the console generation didn't start until late was because of the recession we were going through. I don't know if there's any.
Well, that was
Yeah.
that was the reason why they extended the last generation.
Yeah, because we should have gotten the console generation. If it was a normal generation, it should have been 2010, right? Or 2011, because let's go. Okay, let's say 2011. But apparently there was still a recession going on. They were like, people are not going to be willing to buy another console right now. You know, I don't know if that would have, that's the case or not. But anyway, we're stuck with what we have now. So we'll see if this PS4 Neo nonsense is going to,
Or the
or
Xbox,
not.
whatever the hell it's called.
Xbox 2, as I'm calling it. We'll see.
Is it Xbox TOO?
I would say this, like I do say these guys need to stick to a better schedule. Just release them every 5 years, and you should be okay. Don't release them any earlier than that. I don't like that at all. If you're gonna release them earlier than 5 years, then I'll just upgrade my fucking graphics card.
I like every 6 years because it takes 2 years for that shit to get off the ground and really hit its stride. So you have 2 years of warm up time followed by 4 years of payoff, which is not that bad of a ratio. So that's what I think is the golden point. At least 66% payoff to 30% pay in.
Here's the thing though. The one thing about having the generation as long as it was, you remember when the original Demon Souls came out, right? Like the console, that generation, what was it, on its 7th year?
No, Demon Souls. No, that was like the second year, dude. It came
Was
out
it
really
the second
early.
year?
It came out super early in the PlayStation 4 life cycle.
Really? I could have
Yeah,
sworn it was like the
Demon
third.
Souls,
It was at least. It
Demon
was.
Souls, right?
Yeah. When was
No,
that?
that came out super early, dude. That came out really
I don't
early.
remember
with
that being
consoles.
that early.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now. Oh, hey Brett, look at the chat. I left you something in there. It came out in 2009.
2009. So that's
Yeah.
year 3.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good space to have that. I mean,
Yeah, but to be fair though, 2007 was the golden year for last gen. It has not been replicated at all. I was hoping we were going to get something like that last year. We should have gotten it in November. It didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. But yeah, I think we could all agree this generation has been pretty fucking disappointing. It's like, come on, really? Like I don't think people are going to be looking. I don't think people are going to be looking back at it too fondly. And what really made that worse was when we did the whole thing with the 360. Right? We look back on 360. It's like, fuck, man, last generation was great. Shit.
That's because we hardly upgraded shit. Like I'm still pissed about the hardware upgrades this generation. Like we waited fucking 8 years, and then we got a mediocre upgrade that at the time that it came out was like only slightly better than the average piece of junk PC sitting in everybody's house. Like it's not great hardware specs, and even now it's already horribly dated, like horribly dated. So we waited way too long to get hardware that wasn't good enough. Like I'll be honest, like I sound like I'm shitting all over consoles right now. Like if it weren't for console optimization and a stable proprietary play space, I would be done with fucking consoles because honestly, what we're getting and what we're paying for are not worth it. We wait until after the hump and all the PC users are done with their shit, and then Sony and Microsoft go to these parts manufacturers and they basically take like, well, what do you have truckloads of laying around? Okay, we're gonna slightly augment these and then buy them by the truckload so that you give us a good rate on them, and then we're gonna jam them in and they're equivalent to last generation's computers. Like, at this point, if you have a PC that runs the same specs as a PS4, you've probably bought it from Walmart. Like, you can randomly go to Walmart and just pick something off the shelf. Granted, you'll still probably pay more than you will for a PS4, but a random off-the-shelf Walmart computer will play games just as good as your PlayStation.
I also think that they're trying to find that right level to not only create the consoles, but also price range. What can you get for the price point? Because obviously they were also kind of selling these things at a little bit of a loss. So
less so this generation than every previous generation.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking that's where it was coming from.
I think they actually made a profit off them this time, didn't they?
Well,
this is the first generation they actually made a profit off the consoles.
Yeah, you're right, because remember, it took like the PlayStation 3 years to make a profit. This shit was profitable almost from day one. You know?
Yeah, but it also is different. I mean, what about the Xbox? When was that profitable?
Well, I don't even know if it is, to be honest.
Because here's the thing, a lot of it could also been, for Xbox, is there also could have been paying out the ass for all the consoles that went on the fritz.
Yeah, that's true.
Classically and historically, consoles always take a loss on hardware, and they make it back up in other ways. I think Sony this generation is really the only console that's ever kind of issued that I don't want to say strategy, that process. Like they've actually made a profit, and very much so because they use cheap off-the-shelf components to build a fairly substandard. And this is me talking shit on Sony, just in case anybody didn't notice. Like a fairly substandard set of hardware. Like it's not great, and it pisses me off that we've gotten to this point. I guess that's why it bothers me. Like when people say like, oh, like we should have waited longer for the consoles. Like I'm already playing on an inferior piece of hardware. Even now, like, and I think Sony knows this, and there's enough people like me that's why they're kind of releasing this upgraded one. Even now, like my PS4 is ridiculously dated in terms of hardware. And that's because, and now Sony doesn't know what to do because they've set a precedent. They're like, fuck, it was almost 10 years between our last console cycles, so now if we come out with one every 5 or 6, it's going to look like we're rushing, and people are going to be like, oh, well, what's the point of buying consoles anyway? Like, it's they've left themselves in a very precarious situation that I don't know how they're going to get themselves out of without looking like complete dipshits.
With the PS4 Neo, which apparently people are happy about, which is odd to me. I'm like, I thought people would be pissed off. They're like, yeah, man, let's go.
Dude, at first I was pissed off, but then I really thought about, like, God damn it, I want a PS4 that plays games better. But then the problem is we still come back to the whole, okay, so the PS4 Neo is just going to be more GPU. They're not going to upscale games. They're not going to turn off features in games. So, you're not going to turn on extra features for the Neo. They're just going to make games shinier and a little bit better. They're going to upscale the graphics a little bit, which means we're still going to get like retarded ass games. They're just going to be painted up like a cheap hooker a little bit.
No, it's going to be the thing that everybody wants. It's going to be running at a consistent frame rate.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah. That's the main thing.
That's great and all, but I want real games. Goddamn it! I want real complicated, thick games. Like, and it's probably the reason that I like Dark Souls so much. Like, it's great that Dark Souls looks as good as it does now. But like, even when we went back to Dark Souls 2, like we actually took a step back. Dark Souls 2 looked worse than Dark Souls 1 did. I still had a shitload of fun. That game, the mechanics in that game are tight as hell. It's playing the game that makes it fun. Like, and sure, shiny graphics make something look good, but after a few hours, I'm not sitting there be like, man, I want to watch the texture on this cape look more. Like, I want to look at Bloodborne because I feel like a badass, and I just want to argue about like, man, I look cool in this hat.
Well, but the thing is that still Bloodborne is a very pretty looking game.
It is, but it's not.
And to be honest, I felt like even with those guys, I'm like, all right, this is the level. This is what we're gonna get. I'm like, this is really good looking. And then I look at Dark Souls. It's like, all right, look at those cape physics. You know, look at
let me see them cape physics.
Yeah, look at that cape physics.
But that's great icing on the cake. And don't get me wrong, I love a good icing, but I'm not playing the game for the cape physics. And you could put great cape physics on a crappy game all day long.
And then also the draw distance of a lot of the environments, you get a lot of really nice spaces, like especially with a game like Bloodborne, you get that distance. But with that game, once you get to the top, like they lead you up through caverns and all this stuff, and then you get to the top of the mountain, and then you get to see off into the distance where you might be going.
Like, man, this shit's crazy right now, son.
Yeah, you feel like you're on a bit of more of an adventure.
Yeah, let's move on because we spent way too long on that question. But yeah, obviously we're going to spend a ton of time on that. Oh, by the way, Captain America: Civil War is at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
A further reason why calling your film Versus doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, where the hell are we? Okay, last question from Killax. He goes, this might be a weird one, but if you had one question to ask God, Buddha, Zeus, or whoever you prefer, what would that question be? Very heavy question there, my friend.
Yo, man, you getting religious. There's two things we don't talk about, politics and religion.
So let's make it what do they call it when it's non-denominational? What would you say if you had one question? What would you ask the creator of the universe? You can ask him or her or it something.
If there was a creator of the universe?
Yeah, if there was, right, what would you ask it? See, this is a tough one.
Nah, I could just ask some retarded things. It's like...
You know what I would ask him? What did the five fingers say to the face? Slap. I don't know. Why'd you fuck things up? I guess that's what I would.
Here's the thing. Like, why are people such stupid, petty creatures, which are constantly jealous of each other as to what they have and don't have? That's 90% of what causes 90% of the problems in our society today.
Yeah. All right, that's my question. Why'd you fuck things up?
That's exactly it. It was
nigga, what have you been this whole time? You've obviously been absent. You're not watching the flock, man. Some shit's fucked up right now. You're not watching. What's going on here? You know?
Yeah.
He's like, hey, man, I only have I have omnipotent knowledge, but I can't be watching every single part of the earth.
The universe. I'm busy watching Daredevil season 57, motherfucker. I got shit to do.
Maybe because he is timeless and he knows which way time is going to go, so him interfering with time would cause an alternate dimension. And destroy his own dimension.
But can't he fix that if you're omnipotent? If you're Q, basically?
If you're omnipotent, you know all. If you're all-powerful, you can change all.
Okay, well, you're God, so you're omnipotent and all-powerful. You're
it actually depends. I hate to be the actually guy, but only the Judeo-Christian God is both omnipotent, omnipresent, and all-powerful. Most previous gods have some form of limiting factor. Zeus was even a form of immortal. Like the Olympian gods were, think of them like hypermortals. They could still be killed. Yeah. They still had to have sex. Well, generally they had to have sex to breed. They could breed in other weird ways, like cracking their skull open and pouring their brains out. But like they lived, they died, they fought, they ate, they drank. They existed in one place. They could hear the prayers of things, but sometimes they could be overpowered. Like they weren't everywhere, all powerful and all knowing. That's kind of the Judeo-Christian God, which is kind of the Superman of gods. Like he just kind of like, yeah, he does that too.
Dude, if this was a fighting game, the Judeo-Christian God would be the final boss. Like he's just powerful, you know.
Yeah, the Judeo-Christian God would be like the end boss of Smash Brothers, just a big hand. Like it would be meta in and of itself.
Oh, he wouldn't be Onslaught from
No, yeah, like no, it would be so powerful it wouldn't even be a character. It would be the game itself.
Yeah. Remember in fucking X-Men versus Street Fighter, your Apocalypse's hand, you're fighting his fucking hand.
Yep.
It's like that. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, honestly, if you like face yourself with this super crazy being, like, what really would you ask? That's a tough one.
Honestly, what the fuck did I ever do to you?
Yeah, do you recognize me? Like, cause I'm on the firm belief if there is a god or something that created it, it doesn't even know you fucking exist. That
You're
thing's
just
doing
one
something-
of many things he or she has created.
It's like, am I gonna pay attention to some lowly mortal like Tony Polanco or look at some badass supernova? I'm gonna look at the supernova.
I mean, if he's like if he's like a collector, he could just be like, just watching shit happen. It's like the best thing ever. It's like, look at this shit that I just started. This is the most entertaining shit in the galaxy that I just fucking created.
Yeah, turns out it's just like a bro situation. Turns like, hey man, if you're the creator, where you been? God's like, dude, I've been watching stars explode and shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you can't even comprehend how that shit explodes. Have you seen how the molecules split apart when a star explodes? No, then shut the fuck up.
He's like, have you ever seen electrons agitate in the wave of improbability fields collapsing in on themselves in the core of a collapsing neutron star? That shit is cray cray.
Yeah.
But you don't fucking get it, so shut your damn mouth.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm seeing that shit happen simultaneously in about 7 different universes right now because I'm lazy today. Shut the fuck up.
It's like, how come you don't interfere with anything? Why should I, man?
Why should I? Got other shit to do. Man.
Listen. It's more entertaining just letting these sort of things happen in front of me.
Exactly.
You know how you guys like just sit in front of a TV and just just
just
let it run?
You ask God why he doesn't interfere, and God's like, why don't you vote on American Idol? And you'd be like, huh.
Damn it, you got me, you son of a bitch. All right, you go back to doing your thing. I'm gonna do mine. Exactly.
Those prayers that you see all the time? I hear them.
Actually, no. This one,
I hear them.
Hey, God, why don't you answer prayers? What's a prayer? We asked you to do. Why the fuck would I do anything for you? I don't know you, motherfucker.
You guys keep on calling me at all hours of the night. God's trying to sleep.
Like, listen, guys.
Asking me for things, asking me to win the Olympics. What the fuck's an Olympics?
Like, hey guys,
got me in a fight with my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, I'm gonna tell you the truth right now. The answering machine got filled up about 300,000 years ago. I haven't heard any new messages at all. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you know how you guys like don't answer your cell phones even though you have them?
Yeah.
That's kind of like how it is with me.
That's me. The messages is filled up. I'm not seeing any new ones, and I haven't seen them for like 3 eons. My bad. Anyway, Chris, God, Zeus, I don't know, whoever. What do you ask? Q, I don't know, whatever. What do you ask?
Yeah, it's cute. Hello.
I don't know. I'd ask him for, I don't know, all the money. Can I have all the money, please?
No,
I'm very sorry.
I just ask him that.
Yeah, I don't want to know anything. Just can I have all the money?
Chris is like, you're a fucking genie. Give me shit.
I was going to say, it's not a genie. So Chris is like, one question, huh? Can I have all the money? And God's just like, no. And Chris is like,
Aw.
fair enough.
Yeah, well, you suck. All right, later. That's my reply, and there I got my answer.
No. All right, cool. Go about my day then.
What's money?
But you know what? You'll have a story to tell. Like, hey, what'd you do today? I asked God for money. He said no.
I asked God for a loan. He said no.
Then they'll be like, that dick.
They're like, what'd you do? It's like, I called him a dick and left.
And then that other guy showed up. The
Yeah.
red dude.
He gave me a good deal, though.
Terrible interest.
Terrible interest. Horrible interest. Oh, man. All right.
I figured it'd be like a heavy metal album when I get down there, you know?
Yes.
So I thought that was okay.
The Slayer album. All right. Him Deal is up next. I actually want to. This is a question, but he just had this to say. Very interesting. It's all over the place, but it shows you the differences between what people think is a game that's valuable and isn't. When it comes to length. Big thing we talked about last time. So he goes.
Yeah.
I paid full price for The Order and The Witcher. I enjoyed the Order more and finished the game. I think The Witcher, despite its quantity of content, wasn't worth the full price for me because it was just too much content, and I didn't enjoy the combat enough to push me through to the end of the story. I don't think I'll ever finish that game. But on the flip side, he goes, I paid $12 for Ground Zeroes, and I can't understand why people would pay full price for that. So you see, it goes to the point of, a game's value isn't, you can't, like, it's not a universal thing. Basically, it's in the eye of the beholder. And
Oh my
that's
God, no, that's totally okay. Okay, couple things about this. Number one, that is all very totally fair, and I actually agree with him for the record because I did not enjoy The Witcher all that much. So for you, absolutely, I would agree that there is more value in The Order than there is The Witcher. So, obviously, the value of a game does not reflect to everybody. But we all, even though this is subjective, we all have to also we all exist in our own world, but we all agree to exist in this other place called the real world too, where we all come to a median average agreement on what the value of something is. And my whole point was, and maybe this is me oversimplifying it, but the sheer amount of content in The Witcher is more than that of The Order. So if they are roughly equivalent in general quality, not your taste, but general quality, that more is equal to more value. So therefore, by the transitive property, you get more value out of The Witcher than you do The Order if you like them both equally. Now, it's great that you like The Order more, and that means that you get more value out of The Order. And that is just being aware of your buying habits as a consumer. My only point is that in a perfectly even world of equal content, more is better. And that Tony was arguing with me that more content generally means less quality. And while I would agree that in the real world that is often the case, it's not exclusively the case. And so that we need to measure it by a metric of, if all quality is equal, does more quantity equal more value?
Yeah. And remember what I threw in there. And this one, you kind of like maybe not agree with me, but you saw what I was coming from. It's like, okay, you could offer me 2 quality super hamburgers or 5 of them, same exact quality. There's no difference between them at all. On the face of it, I'm gonna go, oh yeah, I want 5. When I get to that third one, I'm gonna be like, oh god. And then by the time I get to the fifth one, I'm like, I think it would have been better with just 2. The whole diminishing returns and stuff. It's like, okay, they're all equally great, but if you could have too much of a good thing. That's what I was trying to get at before.
I would absolutely agree that there's diminishing return, and I think part of, and this is where it kind of gets folded back on itself. It gets a little meta. I think the quality of a good storyteller is knowing when to end the story.
Yeah.
I think that if you meander the story on too long, by its very nature, it starts to drop in quality. So it's kind of a self-resolving thing.
How many times have you reached that point where you're saying, when is this damn game going to end?
Yeah.
Remember
Dude, every Lord of the Rings movie.
Remember that? Remember when Alien Isolation came out, and the biggest thing that everybody had to say, as great as that game was, it just felt like it went longer than it should have.
If that game was 15 hours shorter, it would be a masterpiece. It really would be.
So I take that as like, and see, that's the thing. Too much of a good thing starts to water it down, and it doesn't feel like a good thing anymore. So therefore, if you have a game that's a 10 out of 10, right? And I know you hate that, but just bear with me. If it's a 10 out of 10, but you play it for 20 more hours than you need to, then it feels like an 8 out of 10. And so I would argue then that it's an 8 out of 10 because it drug on. Like, it then contained fluff. Like I can make the world's most delicious pie and then put plaster in it, and that's just going to make the pie worse, even though it still has all of the stuff that made it great. Now it just has this extra stuff, and filler inevitably wears water stuff down. So I think to a certain extent, when you're discussing this kind of thing, you need to break it down into absolutes and abstracts, the sort of which don't actually exist in the real world, because we're playing pool with invisible balls in order to try and strive for an imaginary 10 out of 10. It's the same thing when we're rating something on a scale of 10 out of 10. You don't actually hit the 10 out of 10. It's there to be a high watermark, a thing to strive for. This kind of philosophical ideal that things try and form themselves around. So, there really isn't a perfect game that hits the sweet spot of, the amount of time played and the amount of story you're given and the amount of content you have, and if the side content is immersive enough to keep you coming back even after, because that's the other thing. You can get diminishing returns from a main story, but then what about if you have really intriguing and compelling side story stuff? Maybe that helps to reduce the amount of diminishing returns. So it turns into a big, complicated thing, but you can't diminish it down to which is worth more money, just The Order or The Witcher, because that's reductive. We're trying to touch on something a little deeper of how do you judge content and value aside from personal preference, because we can all agree we're all going to like certain video games more or less. I've played certain games like what was it? Not Left 4 Dead, but Dead Rising. The first 2 Dead Risings I played over and over and over and over. I absolutely love those games. Did I get more than the value of what the average person would get out of those? Absolutely. But I know for me what kind of games I like, so I take that with a grain of salt when reading reviews. Like, I like games where I can play in an open world almost like a playground, and when you make the activity fun enough that I want to do so, I will just play in that backdrop forever. Like, I'm already thinking about my second Souls playthrough, not because I want to find out more story stuff or because I think I missed some stuff, because I want to hurl a giant Kamehameha bomb. I found out you could do a beam cannon, and now I need to build a Goku, and I'm going to try and convince somebody to build a Vegeta, or I'll build Vegeta and they can build Goku. I'm not picky. But we're going to do it, and it's going to be amazing, because I know that this is my kind of game, and I know that this is a set piece with really tight mechanics that I can play around in, so I'm really going to enjoy that. Now, I also know that a game that's, a cinematic piece that moves from point A to point B, I generally don't like those that much. I tend to get very bored with them. So if a game is fucking 10 out of 10, winning all the awards, even if it's set piece to set piece to set piece, I know that's not really going to be my bag. So,
well, I mean, that's how I feel about Call of Duty. It's like they always say it's high scores. I'm like, I don't care if it gets high scores. I know I'm not going to like it because of the type of game it is.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of where the disappointment of a game comes from for me. Looking at a game and saying that is something I want to play, and despite it getting good ratings and all that stuff, and then playing it and being like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, this game got good ratings. It also looks exactly like what I really wanted to play, Lords of Shadow. And then just getting that sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, man. All right, let's move on here. Okay, I'm actually glad we kind of went off a little bit on that, because he has 2 questions here that we don't really, one we can't flat out cannot answer. The other one I don't understand it really.
What can't we answer?
I'm going to ask him now, but I can't answer this. He goes, does the Coalition have a copy of Uncharted 4 or expect to get a review copy soon? Who will do the review? We all know Tony will be paid for his review, so I know he's not touching it. Sarcasm on. Guys, don't ask us questions like that, please. We can't fucking answer them.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Tony's getting paid for his review, and so it's going to be super biased. Don't make him say it.
Yeah.
That's just insult on injured people.
Yeah. No, but I get questions like that. Like, who's doing the review? Who's doing it? Like, dude, I can't fucking answer that. Like, sorry, So just, it'll be, we are getting a copy, and it will be reviewed. Who? I can't say, but we will review the fucking game. So
we're fucking professional gaming site, man. Of course we're gonna get a goddamn review copy. Even if somebody from the website needed to go out and buy a copy so your asses could have a review, we would fucking do it. So don't stress about a review copy coming in. Coalition's got you covered, baby. Don't even worry about it.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. It's like, dude, we don't need to get the game from a company to review it for you guys. We're gonna get the fucking game, even if we have to pay out of pocket, which is no problem. That's kind of the reason we do this, right? Because we like to buy games and play them.
Exactly. The thing is that, you'd pick, and then also at the same time, we won't fucking gripe about it like certain sites out there who don't get the fucking games.
We didn't get the game.
We didn't get the game this year, so we won't review it.
Let me tell you how bad I am about this shit. I've been doing this for almost 4 years, and I still forget the fact that I can get a free game from a company. What do? I fucking buy it because I'm still that gamer guy. You know?
Exactly. What when he got the copy of Metal Gear Solid 5, right? What did he do?
I still
He
bought the
he
fucking
still
game.
bought the damn game.
And I could have easily gotten a free copy of Quantum Break before everybody a week beforehand, but I didn't because I bought the game. Do I feel bad about that? No. I like buying games, damn it. That's my shit. That's the reason I'm here. But yeah, I'm sorry I can't answer that. We will review the game though. Um, he goes, okay, the next one. What are your thoughts on Prince passing and how he manages the discography via streaming? Very good question, actually, especially the second part of it. Yeah, it's kind of. I was not expecting fucking Prince, man, to, you
Yeah.
know, he's gonna be in the waters of Lake Minnetonka now. This is fucking
This
crazy.
and the thing is that I mean he had done an appearance not that long ago before his death.
Like I didn't
Um,
realize anything was wrong with this guy.
I
He
don't.
was,
I have me and my girlfriend have a feeling that they said he had pneumonia or whatever. Like they had said he was sick already, and
yeah,
I feel like he might have died of complications of pneumonia.
maybe
That shit can kill you.
it
People
I
can.
mean,
forget that.
he was also Prince, so like I'm not sure if I'm older than some of the listeners on here, so I'll break this down a little bit more than necessary, and I'm sorry if it seems pedantic, but Prince comes from an era of musicians and entertainers that, how do we say, were known for living excessive lifestyles, and being rather hard on their own bodies. Like Michael Jackson is another prime example. Like
Hmm.
nobody probably partied harder than Prince. Like Prince had these crazy, like Prince has these parties that made your average like motel room trashing rock star parties look tame. Just like rooms of women and coke and drugs and motherfuckers making pancakes
Yeah, I
and
was about to
just
say pancakes.
like
Actually,
dude
no,
like
he made the pancakes though.
He made
oh,
them.
yeah, that's true. Like you have to imagine that he lived that lifestyle for such a long time. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, whoa, damn, like I was surprised for about 20 seconds, and I was like, damn, Prince, really? Oh yeah, probably he probably did like an Elvis amount of drugs.
But then
But
again,
then, but then again, how is Ozzy Osbourne still alive?
Yeah,
Then you
I
ask that
don't
question.
Sharon. She has injected him with epoxy or something. But then again, like, is Ozzy Osbourne really still alive? Like, is he really?
he's scientifically
He
alive,
just
Brett.
goes
Come
in the
on now.
fridge when we don't see
He,
him.
he moves around and sounds come out of his mouth. But I'm pretty sure that there's like he's just kind of like this autonomous like bobbleheaded thing. Like it's pretty much he lobotomized himself with drugs. I'm convinced that even in like his show, he's not actually saying words. They're just subtitling what they like. They're just like putting words in his mouth. He just goes, and they're like, what he says is like, I don't know. What is he doing? Eating breakfast? I want some eggs, Sharon. Like that. Like they just kind of write it in post. Somewhere after they film the whole thing. Like, he makes a sound and then gets a glass of chocolate milk. So just dub him asking for some chocolate milk. Okay, done.
Yeah,
Nobody
and
knows
then
what he says. He's not there.
by the way, and guys like Lemmy, that guy partied hard like a motherfucker. He lived to be like almost 70, So it depends on the person too. Some people have a bigger constitution and others a stronger constitution.
It also depends on the kind of drugs. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying not to show my hand too much here. Everybody wants to qualify drugs as this big amalgamous thing. Like there's a huge difference. Cocaine and alcohol and your typical rock star stuff, like that'll fucking aid you, but it won't necessarily kill you. Like I have known cokeheads. Thankfully, I've been blessed enough to fucking be smart enough not to touch that shit because I probably wouldn't be here if that were the case. But cocaine is one of those things where if you don't overdo it, meaning if you don't OD and kill yourself, or eat the sinus cavity out of the back of your nose like a couple of my friends did, then you're going to be fine.
Oh, wow.
You're for the most part going to be fine. It's just hard on your heart and whatnot.
It'll
There are
get you
other
later.
Yeah, there are other things like the designer drugs that a lot of Prince-like celebrities and Michael Jackson-like celebrities did that. The downers and the pain meds and the what is it, like the whippets and the gases that put you under and all that kind of shit. Like those things will really fuck you up. Like really fuck you up. The anesthetics, I believe they're called. So again, I'm not being like, I'm sure Prince did all these crazy drugs, but like I wouldn't really say I'd put past Prince to do a bunch of designer drug parties, and those guys don't live that long. It's the asshole that does cocaine and Old Crow whiskey and eats nothing but triple cheeseburgers. That fucker lives to 102 and nobody knows why.
It's crazy, man. What about the second part of this, the whole discography thing? Because I don't know 100% about it, but I know he did some shit to really protect his discography. So I
Oh
remember,
yeah,
yeah,
he was very, malicious when it come to his discography. He would sue like YouTube and stuff like that. Like, because
yeah,
he really wanted to control over where and when his music would be.
yeah. I remember back in the day, like an album that he came out with when I was in high school, right? Our teacher was playing it for us, and he was like, "This album, you can't skip tracks," and that's the way Prince wanted it. He didn't want people to skip tracks. He wanted them to listen to the entire thing, you
Yep.
know. So yeah, he was definitely like a control freak when it came to his music, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, now are we gonna see all those documentaries he filmed about himself? That he
Oh,
locked
we might
away?
see that Kevin Smith
Yeah,
documentary.
but apparently he hired a whole bunch of other people to do the
Yes.
same exact thing, and he did the same thing and locked them away. So yeah, the Kevin Smith one, and
There's also whole albums that I've heard that he scrapped too. So after his death. I mean, before his
Yeah,
death.
yeah. He scrapped a whole bunch of them.
So there, we may have Prince music for the next millennium.
Just like Tupac. Just like
Yeah.
Tupac.
Well, there's as a musician and an artist, there are a bunch of things that you do that just remain. You just kind of put it away or whatever. I'm sure every one of us has one of those things, a bunch of ideas and things all written down in books and things.
I'd be
So
really upset if all the ideas that I deemed too shitty for daylight surfaced after my death.
that's the other thing. Like there was no way, like especially unless Prince was crazy enough to be like, hey, no, don't put this one out, but put this one out.
Yeah, that'd be who knows with that guy, right? How controlling he was.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't do a David Bowie thing where essentially it's like, on this day, I know I'm horribly sick. I want you to do this.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to say on Prince?
Maybe I'm just like my father. He's just satisfied. No? No? Okay.
All right. And the last question, another weird question. He goes, "Can I be on episode 99? I'm not free for episode 1999." That's a Prince thing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shit. Episode. That'd be crazy. We'd be doing this shit for like 20 years. Fuck. All right. Well, people are gonna play games in the future. Turner. All right. Moving on here. Phantom Vash. All right. Any cool stories from PAX East this year?
Well,
That's for me. Yeah, I got a couple of them. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my highlight. The highlight for me was fucking meeting and interviewing Suda 51, right? Crazy. But the story about how I got that was even nuttier, right? Because when I filled out my form to go to PAX, I don't know if I fucked up, if they fucked up. I'm guessing I fucked up. The field that was supposed to have my email, it had the site URL, which meant nobody could send me invitations to anything because they just get the site URL. So I did what I did in my first PAX. I lived off the land. I just went to random booths and shit, just covered games, which I kind of like a little bit better. Than making appointments. Appointments are good because they keep you on track, right? I kind of like just being free to do whatever the fuck I want. So that's what happened with that. So I knew Suda was going to be there for the new game, Let It Die. And my editor at Geek.com, he really wanted me to try to get that interview. I'm like, okay, I'll see what I could do, But by Saturday, I kind of had given up all hope on it. I'm like, oh, this shit ain't going to happen. And then that night, we went to the Square Enix party. It was actually a Hitman party / kind of funny, Greg Miller and all those guys. So we got to talk to them. Crazy fucking party, right? Lots of people drinking. Now here's the funny thing: when you go in, they give you 2 tickets, so you have 2 free drinks, right? There was one crazy motherfucker in there giving out tickets to everybody, like every 10 minutes. So I had like 6 or 7. I drank more beer at this thing than water. It was just ridiculous, during the all the packs, right? So as I'm, doing my thing, mingling and shit, because that's what you do in the industry, mingle and shit, drinking with people, meet people I fucking see on Twitter, hitting me up and stuff, and it's just funny. Like, these are the times where I feel like a weirdo celebrity, because people come up to me, they know me, I don't know who the fuck they are. Like, Tony, man, I read your shit, bro. I follow you on Twitter. You're the fucking man. You tell it like it is, bro. I'm like, yeah, man.
That's all that happens to me quite a bit too.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
You have like people that know you, but you don't know them.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like, even it's sad. Sometimes I don't also remember, because you see so many people at those conventions, like sitting there. They're like, yeah, I got something from you last year, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, sometimes I don't remember these sorts of things, because I see many people.
Yeah, dude, I've mastered the art of bullshitting my way through that. Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
You're like, hey, what's up, Turbo? How you doing?
Exactly. So, we go to like the back part of this bar, right? And this big, tall motherfucker. He's like, Tony, holy shit, dude! I finally met you. Big. I mean, this guy was taller than you and me. You and Chris. Just hugs me. Like, what's up, man? How you doing? Playing it off and shit. And I'm like, what's going on? And then, he started talking, and as I'm talking, I'm like, oh shit, this motherfucker, I've been emailing this dude for years, since fucking DualShockers. He's one of the PR guys, right? So we're talking and talking. Ryan shows up, he's from DualShockers, and he's like, hey man, I got you all set up for the Suda 51 interview tomorrow. He's like, yo, you should feel lucky. Only 10 motherfuckers got to interview this guy, and you're one of them. And I was like, I was like, yo, Zach, man, can I interview this cat too? He's like, yeah, man, you know what? It's like, I'm gonna sneak you in. I'm gonna sign you up. Just going with Ryan, right?
Yo,
so
man,
that's crazy.
Yo, man, you giving some inside pool. Are you sure you should be doing this?
Yeah, fuck that. I didn't do anything illegal. So, by the way, that's a good advice. By the way, talk to fucking PR people. Make friends with everybody. When you get invited to like a drinking thing, do it. This is the shit Torrance been telling you guys. You need to do these kind of things to to kind of make it and stuff. So I go to Suda, go to the thing with Suda. It was like 10:30 in the morning and stuff. Right off the bat, this guy was fucking crazy. If you don't Suda 51 and stuff, so I decided to play the game and stuff. And I asked my standard question, what's the inspiration for this game? And he's like, oh yeah, it's stuff like Fist of the North Star and Violence Jack, were my inspirations. I lose my fucking mind. I'm like, dude, Violence Jack is the shit. Suda looks at me like, and he goes, Sugoi, like he, that's really, and it's translated, and then he says something, and his translator he goes, you know what Violence Jack is? I'm like, yeah, man, me and my buddies used to watch that shit all the time. He's like, oh my god, I didn't know people liked Violence Jack in America. After that, we were buddies, man. It was awesome. So we're half of the conversation was talking about fucking Violence Jack instead of his game. So that was cool. I took a picture with him. I'm throwing the fucking metal sign and stuff. Yeah, man, PAX was fucking great. I love Boston. Is the shit. That is a great city, man. Because it's just New York enough where it's an actual city with like public transportation and good food, but it's not New York enough where the people are actually nice to you. Yeah,
then I'll go. It's like you open the door, you hold the door for somebody, they say thank you, as opposed to in New York where they go, yeah,
exactly. I remember I got off the train station, South Station, and I looked at my GPS, like, your hotel is a mile from me. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to go on. I can't say we'll go on foot or walking, but you know what I mean. And so I was like,
yo, man, I'm rolling.
Because I like so what's cool about Boston is it's like they have all the old tiny buildings with the new shit. It's a really good mix and stuff. So every time I got the chance to like just walk around, I'm like, I'm doing it. Let's go. It was fun.
It's always nice to that's the one thing about going to LA that's a little bit weird, is because again things are so far apart from each other.
You don't want to walk around in LA, man.
Yeah, like we've walked around. I mean, me and Tony walked to the convention center from one of the hotels we were staying at, and it wasn't bad, but I mean, it's things are definitely a lot more spread apart than that in that city than a lot of the East Coast cities.
Yeah, exactly. And then the funny thing, this was the running theme of this fucking PAX for me. Every single okay, not every single, but like at least half the people I met for the first time were fucking New Yorkers. It was hilarious. It was like, how do we keep finding each other? I go to LA, the same shit happens.
Yo,
We
man,
just
they know.
they know. I met this girl Luge, right? Funny story with Luge. So I'm talking, this girl has a thick fucking Brooklyn accent. Like, hey yo, I'm from Brooklyn, you know. So I'm talking to her the whole time. I'm like, yo, this chick looks mad familiar to me. Where's this chick? I'm looking at her, and then I was telling her that I was like, oh yeah, I didn't go to the Homefront party, which is right across the street from the Square Enix party. 'Cause I'm like, I just wanted to come this way. He's like, oh yeah, my friend Will Powers is send that up. We've been friends ever since the tester. I'm like, oh shit, that's where I know you from. You're from the fucking tester.
Hmm.
And then she was telling me, yeah, that her being on tester, even though she didn't win, it helped, her launch a career in gaming and stuff, which is pretty fucking cool, you know and I got to meet just a bunch of YouTubers there. YouTube guys are cool, man. Like it's like you were saying before, they're more willing to tell you about their secrets or whatever. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
it's
they don't hold anything to their chest.
yeah, because because especially the generation now, it's not like the way things used to be where it's like a magic trick where it's like you don't want to tell the magic say how you do these magic tricks because somebody's going to take your magic trick and make a bunch of money off of it. In this situation where the YouTube generation, a lot of people they're just playing it by ear and they're figuring out shit on their own, and
Yeah.
they're willing to tell everybody else how they did these things too. How many of the YouTube guys have we had on? We've had quite a bit of people, YouTube personalities on our site, on our, interviewed on our
Yeah.
show, and they're all different stories, but it's all really interesting to hear these sorts of things.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, what weirded me out because I'm introducing myself to these guys. I tell them what I do, and they're like kind of in awe of me. I'm like, no, I'm not a cool YouTube guy like you. What the fuck is like? No, but you write about games, man. That's crazy. So it's just weird. I'm like, dude, I'm just some asshole. Like I just write about games. That's not a big deal. But to them, it's a big deal. But to me, them being on YouTube is a big deal. It's weird how that works.
And well, but the thing is that there's still the for a writer, there's still that allure that you're working and you're working. Dude, that's the way, it's always better from the outside looking in. That's the
Yeah.
way you got to see that sort of thing. When somebody
Oh,
hears like, oh shit, oh, you work for, you write for a magazine or you write for a website. For me, it's like, oh, hey, you work on these comic books.
yeah.
It's,
Hold on.
it's,
Yeah, man. Hold that thought, Brett. You got to get going, right? Because the headsets are all fucked up and stupid.
Yeah, I got my new headset. God damn, this thing is tight. It's giving me a fucking migraine. So
All right,
up
brother.
and
We'll
down.
let you go
all right. See you, Brett.
later. All right,
All right.
Manny. Go ahead. Later, man.
It's,
See you, folks.
it's like it's from the outside looking in. It's like it always looks better from the outside. I mean, when friggin' Chris was like working at Rockstar and Nintendo, I was like, oh my god, you're working over there, and he'll go, dude, and then within the story, he'll tell me some stories.
Yeah.
So it's you also have to kind of keep that in mind. People will look up to you no matter if you have these sorts of positions, because that's just the level that they want to get to. But then once they kind of get into the whole mess, they kind of get a little bit of the some people will get that kind of culture shock. And
Yeah.
for me that actually happened too. Well, like I interned at Marvel. Like that's like the dream right there. You go how many guys have you heard of like, oh yeah, I interned at Marvel, blah blah blah, and I got a comic book job.
Yeah.
But the thing is that at the time I was working there, they weren't hiring anybody. They were like firing people, because the company was going bankrupt. So, but it's you still had that. Once you have that sort of thing where it's like, okay, you realize how it goes, then for some people they kind of lose it, and they'll just be like, oh, hey, it's just what I do. Or some people are
I
just
don't know.
like,
I'm not at the point where I'm like jaded. Obviously, I've only been being paid for this for like 6 months now. I'm not
mhm.
jaded, but I'm more seeing it like, dude, I just write about games. That's not like as cool as like doing a ton of fucking videos.
But
I
then at the
like what,
same time, you got to think of it from their side. It's like I got to do all these fucking videos.
yeah, that's true.
I was thinking about how we had Yang on our show, right?
Yeah,
And he, if you think about it right now, it's a kind of a difficult point for him because there's no new Metal Gear content coming out. There's no new Metal Gear stuff coming out, and that's where he made his.
Yeah.
That's where he's made his star. So now I don't know how it is for me. I haven't talked to him directly in a while, but I definitely think that it's a lot more difficult now since we don't have there's no new game coming and there's no new Kojimas, like officially Kojima's. You don't know what Kojima's doing anymore. So I'm sure it's sad to say, but I'm sure maybe he might have lost quite a bit of viewers just because he's not kept the Metal Gear thing going.
Oh, you
And
know,
he,
I see what you're saying. You know, like with me on my end, that's something similar. And I told you this a few times. When things are dry, man, that's money lost.
yeah.
You know, like especially now there's nothing happening. I'm like, oh fuck. You know, like if I wake up and I have to do like 3 or 4 stories, I'm actually happy because that means money because I get
Hmm.
paid for each one of them. If I don't have anything, I'm like, oh fuck. You know, that's the freelance life. But no, but you know, going back to what I was saying, it was just pretty interesting that guys that in my mind are like bigger than me or looking up to me. You know, pretty interesting.
But
Um,
but here's the one thing that comes out of that. You get a guy like Greg Miller, where
I hung out with him for a little bit. Always a cool dude, you know. And he
yeah,
actually wanted me to thank Manny for that picture he drew for him, you know.
yeah, like I think E3 2014, I gave him
Yeah,
one of the Big Boss pictures, and it actually, if any of you watch the Kind of Funny show, like sometimes it'll show up back there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, people pointing that out. I was like, oh yeah, he's the one that drew that shit, man. But yeah, here's the thing I really wanted to say because I mean, obviously, you know, like a lot of cool stuff happened at PAX, but it wasn't anything crazy. But the message, or not the message, the thing I got out of it, which a lot of people don't see because they just read the headlines and stuff, right? There's actually a really good sense of like camaraderie in the industry, man. Like all these guys that I know that kind of came up with me and stuff, or have seen me grow, they were all so fucking happy for me, and I felt the same way with them, It's like, we all struggle with this shit. Now we're here now, making a living off this shit. And it's pretty cool how nobody really gave you like, oh, why are you here? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some of those assholes too, but people that I personally know, they're not like that, So there's definitely, like a good sense of camaraderie within the industry.
Well,
But you don't see that obviously.
there are some of those people out there that are looking to kind of step up and constantly look to step up and trying to forget about the people that brought them there.
Yeah,
And that those sorts of people don't make up. They're just
yeah,
kind of always looking in, rather than saying, being like, "Hey, listen, we were here together. I'll help you out if you help me out, vice versa." You know?
yeah, exactly. Like one of my boys, Brian Sharon, right? He was doing the same thing I'm doing. What's he doing now? He's fucking doing PR,
Hmm.
Same thing. He was like, dude, he's like, I'm so proud of you, man. Like, I remember you when you like first, because he remembers me from Dual Shockers, I believe. I remember when you first started doing this shit. Now look who you are now. So yeah, it's basically what I'm trying to tell people is like, it's not all fucking negative. There is like a sense of family within the industry too. It's just you don't see too much of that, and it's cool for me to go to these events and feel that because most of the time I'm just at home fucking writing. Remember Jake Baldino talked about that. He goes to, he liked being on Throwdown at one time because to him he's just in his basement the whole time doing videos and stuff. He doesn't see
Hmm.
too many people, you know.
Yeah,
See,
he's doing well for himself,
oh
man.
yeah,
I
definitely.
watch his channel, and I think he has a site too. He does game news now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he does. Yeah, yeah. I ran into him at that party too, man. It was pretty funny. It's like at that Square Enix party, I ran into everybody that I missed out on in the previous day. I was like, where the fuck is this guy? Where the fuck is this guy? The
Well, they're all
only
doing
guy,
their thing.
the only guy I didn't see the entire weekend. I don't know how
Hip
the
Hop Gamer.
fuck I didn't see Hip Hop Gamer.
Hmm.
There has never been an event where I have not seen Hip Hop Gamer at least like 5 times. Oh, and by the way, Torrance, man, what the fuck? Torrance, he goes to PAX, shows up for 3 hours and leaves.
Oh,
Like, dude, come on, man. Like I wanted to see Torrance and then he just leaves and shit, you know. But what are you gonna
me.
do?
It's for Torrance. I think it's. Who knows if he had an anxiety ability thing there? It's just
Oh,
like,
no,
oh,
no,
here we go, this again.
yeah, no. He said he's like, I saw what I needed to see and I'm out. It's like I don't think you saw everything you need. There's a lot of shit at PAX, dude.
He saw what he wanted to see, but I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like also now he's somewhat removed himself from the scene, and he doesn't want to kind of play the game anymore.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? I mean, granted, he could have just stuck around. It is a little messed up. He could have just stuck around and hang around a bit,
Yeah, man.
or even just show up at like at the hotel room, but like just talk for a bit, whatever. I mean, he does live there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you leaving, bro? So yeah, PAX was definitely this was easily my favorite PAX. I only been to two PAXs, but this one was cool. No stress, anything. Lots of fucking drinking, lots of networking, meeting with cool people and stuff. Good
Hmm.
times. And by the way, the best cap of the whole thing for me, the whole weekend, I was like, yo, man, I want to get that Cheese Boy. Cheese Boy is great. If you've ever been to Cheese Boy before, and I was just like, when I was leaving, I was bemoaning the fact I'm like, man, am I gonna get to eat Cheese Boy? Guess what was right there that I didn't notice in the fucking train station? Cheese Boy. I'm like, yes. I bought one of those motherfuckers and ate that shit on my ride home, man. It was great.
Damn, I don't even know what that is.
Dude, Cheese Boy is like a Boston thing, like they basically serve like different kinds of like grilled cheese sandwiches and stuff. It's fucking god food, man. It's
All right.
awesome.
Yo, man, it'll make you fat.
It'll make you fat, but it'll make you, it'll make you happy.
I'm embarrassed. The guy who went to school in Boston, I never had Cheese Boy.
Cheese Boy, man. I remember, yeah, my first year in Boston, we were like, hey, Cheese Boy, that sounds interesting. And then it was me, Ryan, and George, right? Who I roomed with, by the way. And once we went there, we're like, yo, this place is the shit. And we all found, then when I found that Cheese Boy, they all were like, yo, let's go to that Cheese Boy. Because that Cheese Boy, the South Station is literally like 3 blocks from the convention center. 3 long ass blocks, but it's 3 blocks down.
So you trained it and you didn't fly in, did you?
Why would I fly?
I don't know. You could fly.
That's crazy. No, I'm not even the train, man. Took the Amtrak business class, man. I was fancy. But by the way, just for the shows, that was a complete mistake because I ordered my tickets literally 2 days before the show. Right?
No
So,
way, man.
so they all they had was business class, but it was a good accident because I'm never gonna take coach again. I'll pay that $300. That shit was fucking nice. Oh man, there's a bunch of other shit. I'm probably pretty sure it'll come up later. Oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out, and you people might think this is weird because you know how I feel about Polygon. Shout out to Samit Sarkar from Polygon. I roomed with him. He needed an extra room, and we had a spare. Like, dude, stay with us. Really cool dude. We were talking about a bunch of different things. I even told him like, hey, like I like your stuff, but your site's a little left leaning for me. But he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I understand. But he's a really cool dude and stuff, and he broke down the specifics of Indian weddings for me, which I appreciated because okay, Oh, by the way, you know what? I'm gonna put E3 on blast right now. I gotta do this. If you guys may or may not know, I am a handicapped person. I use a fucking wheelchair, right? And guess what? E3 doesn't have shuttle service for me. I have to take fucking taxis everywhere. So, okay, my first surprise at PAX, they had a sheet. If you need ADA service, call this number. So I'm like, ooh, that's good. So I called up like, hey, I need ADA service. What time do you want us to pick us up? 9:30. Cool. I'm expecting a taxi or Uber. No,
They gave you a bus, right? They
the
gave you.
bus with everybody else. So I'm gonna, because I need to finalize things with E3. I'm gonna go. Hey, PAX shit. PAX East did this shit for me. Why aren't you guys doing it? I realize I'm literally the only gaming journalist that's fucking handicapped. But you gotta give me something.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
No, I mean we've been saying this before. You shouldn't number one that you're going to this event. They should be accommodating you no matter what. And I know in general, you kind of go like, I don't know if I should complain. Dude,
Yeah.
fucking complain.
No, I'm gonna do it now because I'm like PAX East did it.
To be
What's
to
your
be
fucking
honest,
excuse?
you are one of the only gaming journalists that do this. But there are still people that attend the E3 event that are in wheelchairs or are disabled in some
Yeah.
way.
Even if they're not journalists and stuff.
Even if they're not journalists, like that one lady who has the friggin'
The dog. We
the
see
dog.
her every year. Yeah. Exactly. So, like, come on, E3, step your shit up. Fucking stupid. But then again, it's fucking LA. I guess shouldn't be surprised.
No, I mean it was. I mean, I'm not sure if we told you guys this sort of stuff, but like, I mean, our few trips that we've had, the few trips we went to E3, we've had some hassle with a lot of the taxi drivers
Yeah,
over
we
there.
did.
Fucking LA has the worst goddamn taxi drivers ever because number one, at least for Tony. I've been Tony's. Me and Chris have been Tony's friend for a long time, and we
Yeah.
know that in general Tony likes to usually get into the front seat because it's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
easier.
easier for him.
Yeah.
These guys wouldn't have that shit. They're like,
Yeah, they
no,
won't.
you can't come in the front. Like, what?
It's stupid. You know,
And
by the
that's
way,
why. That's why in 2014 I rented a car. And
Yeah.
rented that fucking car. You know, and then guess what? And then last year when I was there, I took Uber. None of those Uber drivers gave me any shit.
No,
They were
because
like,
they don't
okay,
care.
cool.
They're not
Yeah,
really
well,
taxi drivers. They're just the
yeah.
dude with the car who gets paid. You
And,
know.
and Boston passed the taxi test. When I took a taxi in Boston, I'm like, hey, can I sit in the front? They told me the same thing in New York taxis say, if you paid for this, say whatever the fuck you want.
Exactly.
Like, there you go.
Yeah,
East Coast,
but
man.
but PAX, yeah, I noticed even for attendees, they run shuttles through all the
Yep,
hotels, right? You just get
yep,
on the bus. They accommodate you. E3 doesn't. Remember, you left your pass that day at
yeah.
E3, and you had to take the train.
I had to take the train in the bus.
Oh
If it
my
was
god.
packed, I could have just taken a shuttle back.
Yeah.
You know, because the shuttles, you know how it is, Chris. They run all day, basically.
And
You know.
second of all, E3, come on. You know, you have a database of everybody and their press credentials and whatever. You tell me you can't just give an alternate pass.
Yeah. It's
That's
so
bullshit.
stupid. But yeah, I had to get that off my chest. It's fucking, it's like, come on, PAX does it right.
Oh,
What the fuck
and
is your excuse?
by the way, yeah, E3 does have a shuttle service, but they have those freaking charter buses, which are incredibly difficult to get into.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Anyway, moving on here. Okay, Fanabash is asking us what villain we like to see in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Well, we kind of answered this question already. Like, you know, do we remember our answers?
Oh,
Mm,
I don't even
yeah, I
remember.
kind of don't remember now.
Okay, we could do it fresh.
I might say
I,
something different.
you know, I'm still sticking with my answer, even though no one likes it. I want to see the ultimate version of Green Goblin. That's what I want to see.
Hulk
You know,
Goblin?
Hulk
yeah,
Goblin?
I
Yeah.
want to see Hulk Goblin. God damn it, I'm sticking with
Mm,
my answer.
I don't want to see any Green Goblin. I think
Yeah,
I said that last time.
yeah, you said that.
I don't
But
want to
the
see
thing,
any. I don't want to see any villains that we've seen before. We've already seen Goblin like fucking 3 times, like two
yeah.
times, two
Well, I
times.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean
twice.
No,
that's what
no,
I want.
3. If you want to,
No,
if
yeah,
you want to count,
Ugh.
yeah.
what's his face Goblin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, by the way, that's what I want. They already said there's not going to be any old villains in this first movie. It's going to be a brand new villain, you know? So I guess if actually, no, I think I remember saying this too. Craven, that would be interesting, you know?
I think Craven. I think Craven's an interesting choice, but I think I said this before too, that he's not as visual of a villain.
No, he's not fancy, you know?
I think I might have said Mysterio.
Yeah, Mysterio would be great.
Yeah,
Mys-
Mysterio. You gotta say it like Stanley.
Mysterio.
Mysterio. Yeah, Mysterio would be awesome because he would be like
He
a perfect like movie villain, you know?
he's a very cinematic sort. I mean, because he was a special effects guy, but he's a very cinematic sort of villain.
Exactly.
Like to have. It's sad to say, but now because each one of the villains for all these films have kind of been like, at least the Iron Man films have kind of had those kind of weak villains almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that they've kind of learned from that or tried to beef them up, and I definitely think that something like a Mysterio, or not the Lizard.
Yeah, we
Um,
had that already.
I mean, you could kind of throw the Rhino, but he's also not a good. He's a good beat the shit out of you kind of guy, but he's not. He can't get Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna have like 1,000. There's stories with the Rhino, but Rhino is kind of one of those villains of the week if
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
exactly what he was.
exactly. All right, Chris, what do you say?
Uh, you know what? Would be interesting since I heard that Iron Man's gonna make an appearance in this movie. What if somebody? What if you did the Spider Slayers?
That would be
What if
crazy.
what if you did like Alistair Smith and the Spider Slayers, and maybe Stark is helping him take down the Spider Slayer tech? Maybe make it like a mini Ultron type of thing. I don't know. I was thinking about that. I mean, Spider-Man has a lot of lame villains, and then there's a lot of guys I don't want to see done again. They just did Lizard, right?
Yeah.
They did Sandman poorly. They did Venom poorly. I don't know if they're gonna do them again. I mean, I'd love to see Venom done right,
Yeah,
but I
that would
don't
be
even know if they're
awesome.
gonna do it. They could do Carnage. I think that was my old answer. Maybe that was my original answer.
Yeah, I think that may have been.
Yeah, I would like to see Carnage, but I think if I heard that Robert Downey Jr. is gonna make an appearance, I was like, wow, what if they did the Spider Slayers?
Yeah, that would definitely be like really crazy over the top cinematic too, you know?
Yeah.
Fighting a bunch of robots.
Yes. PG-13 people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last question. This I didn't even know this was a thing. What are your thoughts on Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi Channel, creating? And this is I verified this is actually happening apparently. What are your thoughts on Sci-Fi Channel creating a Superman prequel called Krypton, focusing on Superman's grandfather?
I'll tell you what I think of it. The same thing I thought of Caprica. Who the hell wants to see that shit?
Exactly. Like I don't want to see Krypton, Superman's grandfather. Who cares? You know. And you're not gonna have the budget for that shit.
Essentially, it's Gotham.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
even
Caprica.
he's not even going to be around. Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
like Caprica. It's
It's
like
Caprica.
Yeah, I don't. I really think that's a silly idea. But
That's stupid.
I mean, what essentially, it'll just, the one good thing about the whole thing is that they don't have to deal with any sort of comic bullshit.
They
But
don't.
at
They
the
can do
same,
what they want.
but at the same time, they're not going to do that. You're gonna,
They're gonna,
Brainiac is gonna be fucking there. We know this shit.
of course.
They're
Yeah.
gonna throw a bunch of villains in there. Zod shows up
Yeah.
as a kid.
Kid Zod.
Yeah. It's like how
I
did
will
you
make
know
them.
all this?
I will make them kneel before me.
Stupid. This is gonna be Gotham. It's gonna be terrible.
It's gonna be Gotham with Superman.
Yeah. So stupid. All right. And the last question. Oh, Chris, let's see if you can answer this one, man.
Oh yeah.
He goes, my God. Oh, this is from K Cube, my homie K Cube.
Yeah.
He goes, my God, Star Fox Zero. Jesus Christ, the controls for that fucking game. I traded it in after the second stage. Damn. He goes, there's also no way to play with the Pro controller for a single player, and the voice has to come out from the gamepad. My question is, when Chris was working for Nintendo, did you work on a game where they shoehorned in motion controls when it was not even needed?
All right, well, I'll clarify. I didn't work on the games. I just made the
You worked
sites
that,
and
yeah.
worked with the marketing team to sell them. So I wasn't actually a game developer. And yes, I was there when they shoehorned motion controls in a game that didn't need them at all and should have had the option not to have them. It was called Skyward Sword.
Oh,
And it's
shit.
probably the most ill-received Legend of Zelda in history, right? The entire game requires you to use the Wii Remote, to use Link's sword, and to move around, right? It is the most painful and ridiculous control scheme ever, and it was one of the biggest E3 fails in recent history. Remember Miyamoto trying to play the game? Like it was like not working. It's just so bad. It's ridiculous. So this kind of reminds me of that. I remember, like, that game would have done so much better if it had the option to use the GameCube controller to just play the game, right? But Nintendo never does that. They never listen to their fans. They just want you to play their way. Miyamoto wants to make the games his way, and that's what you get, right? So he did the same thing here. They are already checked out of the Wii U, so why the hell force gamepad features into this game? That's what I don't understand. You are already checked out of the Wii U, right? So what the fuck is the point of this? Why make Platinum Games sit there and create this game with this cockamamie gamepad motion control aiming and voice out of the gamepad? Why do this? Like, it's just ridiculous to me. I don't understand the line of thinking, and it just goes back to Nintendo doesn't care about their fans. They don't care about what you think. They are just doing these experiments and just blaming the consumer when you don't like it. Like, I'm sure the reply to you would be like, you just need to get used to the controls, or you don't understand what we tried to do, instead of going, no, your control scheme sucks. There are reasons that controllers have buttons and people like them. There are things that just work. They work for years. Why do we still type on a QWERTY keyboard? Because it fucking works. Why do we use a mouse? Because it works. It's 30 years old. We still use it. There are things that just work. So we didn't need this gamepad. First, the Wii U is just a mistake in general.
It really was.
So to shoehorn all this stuff into Star Fox and not give people the option, like KeyCube, to enjoy the game with the Pro Controller or the GameCube adapter, which they have, and just force this down your throats, just shows how much Nintendo doesn't care about you. And I hope it gives some of you Nintendo fans and apologists who are still out there, you still exist, you're still sucking on the teat there. I hope this gives you a glimpse into your future. Your future is bleak.
Oh,
Their future, they're done. Like, this is what you get. This is just mess after mess. They can't get anything right. Look forward to that Zelda, because I guarantee it'll be crap. And then the NX is just going to be a debauchery of a system. So look forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I need to add this. Our friend Big John, right?
Hmm.
He's hit his last straw with Nintendo. He bought this game and he's like, "That's it. I'm fucking done." He's selling his Wii U. He's selling everything. He wanted to sell his Wii U for a while now. He was trying to sell it to me, but I'm like, no, I'm good. But he was like, you know what? I'm gonna hold out for that Star Fox, man. Hold out for that Star Fox. He's a huge Nintendo fan. Again, huge Nintendo fan. He's done. He's
Yeah,
fucking done.
Kristen was actually considering it. She's like, wow, maybe Star
No.
Fox will be okay.
Yeah.
No, now she's seen all this stuff. She's very, very upset and disappointed, but mostly angry. Mostly angry. And yeah, this. I think a lot of people, they should be like, tap out now. You should still get yourself a PlayStation or an Xbox now. You can jump into other pool. We're all having fun in this pool. There's a reason like PlayStation 4 is doing well. Maybe because it still uses buttons and has a simple control schemes in games that works. Nothing is being forced down your throat. Xbox too. Nothing's being forced down your throat. They got rid of Kinect. Don't worry about that. Everything's great. So jump into either pool. You'll be fine.
Jeez. All right, so there you go. Okay, so a couple of things. I didn't have them written down here, but a couple of things I need to say. Make sure to check, if you don't already do, make sure to check out Broken Games HD's channel and stuff. I'm going to be on there again, as I always am, at the last Wednesday of every month, doing the gaming assembly podcast. So always fun to look out for that. Otanime, we're going to have Otanime again, so be on the lookout for that as well. And now both throwdowns will be back on their normal schedules, Thursday, Sunday. You already know how it is, people. So that's pretty much that.
Well, until E3 comes along.
I already have that planned out too, people. By the way, I already know exactly how that's going to go down, so we're good. Because I always want to throw down your question. I always want to throw down questions to be the exact same number, and I'm like, how am I going to make this work? But I figured out a way to do it. So we're good.
So essentially, does that mean that you're what's his face? I can't remember that actor's name. The guy who played Jarrell.
Oh, Marlon Brando.
Yeah, you're Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. You're the mad genius.
Yes, I figured it out. So yeah, that is pretty much it. So let's do the final pimpings, as I like to call them. Thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section on the Coalition or on YouTube so you can answer them on next week's show. Make sure to follow the Coalition at thecoalition.com. Also help support the site by donating to the Patreon page. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are available in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
And Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
All right, I guess we'll see you around later.
Peace.
Later.